Driving along the forest alley of Saladas, decorated with centuries-old oaks and flowering bushes, people whiled away the time talking about the kingdom of Grandale. They say that they managed to summon heroes from another world who have special powers to fight the Dark Lord. That's right, the summoning took place about a month ago. Since then, the entire city has been talking about nothing but this event. And everyone has their own guesses and assumptions about what these mysterious heroes are like. Will they be able to defeat the ancient evil? The girl sitting in the back seat of the carriage became noticeably more animated. Were these not the heroes so often written about in ancient legends? Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she listened to the conversations of the travelers. And she was not mistaken. According to beliefs, among them there are those who possess two unique abilities at once. Who knows, maybe they all stand out with incredible skills. There is much mentioned about them in ancient manuscripts. There is no doubt, under such conditions they will defeat the Dark Lord in the blink of an eye. And when the war begins, they, mere mortal traders, will get a piece of the profit. The merchants in the carts were already rubbing their hands in anticipation of profitable deals. Real heroes, Tina, that was the girl's name, listened to the storytellers with fascination. She imagined mighty warriors, capable of defeating enemies with one wave of their hand, and noble knights, ready to give their lives for a just cause. In her fantasies, the young lady had already seen the queen, whose fiery speech about the importance of preserving humanity lights up the hearts of young men and turns them into heroes. Tina knew, with such defenders, the kingdom is safe. How she wished she could meet such a person at least once. She believed that her dream would definitely come true someday, and this belief gave her the strength to move on, even when reality seemed too ordinary and gray. Miss Tina thought about how great it was that in this world, anyone could mentally access their own ability matrix. Once upon a time, people couldn't even dream of seeing their true potential. There are certainly some among those who want to, and there will always be those who have also come from far away and want to try out the strange function among the first, confidently hoping to see something special about themselves there. Their eyes glow with anticipation at this thought. How many young souls have been shattered on the rocks of reality, and how many hopes have crumbled to dust when the mirror of truth showed them its face. Their expectations are not always justified. Only those who are worthy of it are destined to become a real hero. Dreams! Until recently, Akinose Kanata was a completely ordinary high school student. He didn't stand out for any special talents or striking appearance, just another teenager lost in the crowd. Every morning, like everyone else, he washed himself, had breakfast, and prepared himself for a new school day. On his way to school, he also greeted his neighbors, like a well-mannered guy. It's been a month since they, high school students, were summoned to the world where the kingdom of Grandale is located. The first few days seemed like a nightmare. But now they've gotten used to these majestic castles and green hills. Since the summoning, nothing significant has happened here, in the sense that the Dark Lord is still alive and kicking. This fact has been haunting the kingdom's inhabitants. As for the summoned themselves, Tamaki-saki called out to Kanata. She asked him if he could increase the number of onigiri flavors, since they were all the same. He gave her a displeased look. She used to be the class representative. She looks quite modest. You wouldn't think that she has the skill assassin. In battle, she transforms and becomes a lightning-fast, silent shadow, sliding between enemies. Suddenly, he was surrounded by girls. They complained to him. There aren't even any manga or magazines here. In that world, they calmly took a new batch of reading material every week. He was taken aback and asked them to moderate their ardor. He calmly stated that his shop only sells bottles of tea and onigiri, and he doesn't even know how to develop the market and his skill. Be patient. To which one of the girls called him mean. To tell the truth, he was tired of hearing everyone constantly ridicule his skill. His shop had electricity, air conditioning, and lighting. And the toilet even had toilet paper and a flush. In addition, there was a working computer here from which you can place orders. Knowing all this gave the guy confidence. For modern people like them, this skill is really valuable, even though the choice of goods is limited. Sometimes locals drop by the shop and exchange their goods for products from this world. They are always amazed by the local wisdom, and Akinose Kanata is happy to offer them something else. Sometimes they even bring him exotic fruits, so there are no problems with survival. Now, when he was chewing an apple, someone knocked on their door again. The shop owner had already gotten used to the sound of the bell on the door, signaling someone's arrival. The commoners of the third group, at least that's what they call them, are often visited by a certain Kajima Shinji, tailor, and Kawasaki Ryo, telephone, and they seem quite pleased with the local amenities. Speaking of the bathroom, this time, when they looked in, they noticed Tamaki lying on a futon in the middle of the store. When they asked what's going on, she replied that she was just comfortable and convenient. No one could understand how someone could choose such a strange place to rest. The shop owner sent Kawasaki away. No need to show off. Ryo began to hastily apologize and try to justify his behavior in every possible way, blushing like a tomato. Watching all this, Kanata thought, how noisy they are after all. His nature required calm and concentration, but it is unlikely that at this moment he was judging anyone. It is important to find a balance in everything. To be in class and suddenly to find yourself in an unfamiliar place. Well, as they say, welcome, heroes. Crusade, the ruler of the eastern kingdom of Grandale, that day, Akinose learned to understand the new world. He understood that the new kingdom opened up unprecedented opportunities for him, but at the same time, it required complete dedication. In this world, there is someone called the Dark Lord. As he understood, it is something like a demon king, or something like that. He created monsters that caused a lot of evil to the world. Of the 7 states on the continent, 2 have already been destroyed by the creations of the Dark Lord. To overcome the crisis, Grandale performed the ritual of summoning heroes from another world described in ancient writings. Secret knowledge, stored for centuries in the dusty volumes of the Royal Library, finally found its use. The result is known. All 31 people from their class were here, united by a serious matter. Some were huddled fearfully close to their friends, some were looking at their unfamiliar surroundings with curiosity, and some were already trying to comprehend what was happening. To be fair, the people of this world were also puzzled. Usually only 3 or 4 heroes are summoned. This time there were many more. Kuramochi Yuto, a local elite with good grades and a pretty face, decided to break the general silence. He needed to find out something from the ruler. Kanata considered him an extremely unpleasant character. He reminded her that they were just schoolchildren. He asked if she would grant the wish of any of the students if they wanted to return to the old world without fighting the Dark Lord. The queen replied that they could not afford such a thing. Tamaki Saki asked why. She looked confused and even a little scared. There was something dark and dangerous behind the queen's decision, and it made the village chief's voice tremble. In response to this question, the ruler said that they lacked the magical power to reopen the portal, but it could be obtained by defeating the Dark Lord, and perhaps then they could return them back, using the necessary spell. Kanata realized that to return home, they had to defeat this lord. He was not just a strong opponent. He was a wall blocking the path to family and normal life. But there was nowhere to retreat. Kuramochi didn't let up and asked for a second question. His persistence bordered on importunity, and he didn't hesitate to glare at even the queen herself. However, he was always so nasty. He reminded them that they were, in fact, completely ordinary people. How could they possibly defeat the Dark Lord, before whom even the toughest warriors of this world were powerless? The queen had said that they could not worry about that. It turns out that they have been given special powers that the inhabitants of the previous world cannot possess. The writings contained lines about heroes who possess unique abilities that the Dark Lord is vulnerable to. She also said that they would see their skills if they just thought about checking their status. At these words, Akinose Kanata wanted to know what kind of abilities he had. A system window has appeared, notifying that the hero's status is being checked, and along with it, the abilities are being confirmed. And what's the result? Got a shop. He was hoping for cool martial arts, or, at worst, magic. He dreamed of a harem of elves, catgirls, and fairies. Bad luck. The day after the summoning, a full-fledged hero training program began in the royal palace. The first step was to select abilities to fight the Dark Lord. Akinose Kanata's annoyance, the protagonist, was Kuramochi Yuto. He was given 2 abilities. Immortality, can be resurrected up to 5 times, and the Blessing of the Goddess, possession of all types of magic and special defense. Kanata thought this was unfair. Moreover, it is Kuramochi who leads the first main squad capable of confronting the Dark Lord directly. It consists of Kanamorei Jun, Water Mage, Kanai Mioka, healer, Sawano Ludi, shooter, Yuki Saki, swordsman, Natori Mitsuki, shield mage, Minadzuki Yuhei, spearman, Kirishima Masaki, ice mage, and Tamaki Saki, assassin. The second squad and reserve members of the first group replaced the wounded, and the third detachment, which Kanata ended up in, was declared incapable of combat. He was, of course, inexpressibly glad about this. Even his friend, Sugita Yuki, fire mage, made it into the main cast. The protagonist deceived himself that he was not jealous of him at all, but no matter what he thought, jealousy, like poison, slowly ate away at his self-confidence. A month after the recruitment, starting with the third squad, more and more people who couldn't stand the hard training and life in an unfamiliar world began to run to Kanata's shop, and the discussion of serious problems turned into a discussion of onigiri. This did not add much hope. The protagonist kept wondering when they would defeat the Dark Lord and whether they would be able to cope with him at all. Then Tamaki Saki noticed his sad face and felt that something was wrong. She instantly flew to the hero to find out what had happened to him. He was even a little scared of such attention. Her concern was so sincere that he even felt ashamed of his secrecy. Embarrassed, the hero said that everyone had important thoughts. Even he. They didn't often wander into his head, but they usually left a deep mark. And anyway, what were she and her comrades doing here, visitors of the first detachment? It seemed strange to him to see them within these walls. It was either a challenge or a daring experiment of fate. At least, that's how it seemed. Tamaki replied casually. She was here because there was air conditioning and a toilet with running water. It was very comfortable. In response, the shop owner insistently asked her not to sit on the table. The girl continued, I don't really want to go back there. Not everyone wants to seriously fight the Dark Lord. After all, it's one thing to listen to legends around the fire, and quite another to fight the ancient evil face to face when you know what is expected of you. But that's what everyone thinks, including Akinose. She doesn't think that most people are thrilled about what's happening. The girl nicknamed Assassin agreed. Few people like it. Tamaki said that she didn't care about defeating this Dark Lord at all. The hero asked again to find out if she was joking, but her expression made it clear that she was completely serious. Maybe she was expressing her fatigue. The thing is, if the first squad she joins doesn't defeat him, they'll all be forced to stay here forever. Sitting it out isn't an option. These aren't just empty words, because each of them is bound by invisible bonds of duty. They need to win. The girl replied that everything would be fine because they all had the ability to do so, and then suddenly said that she would protect Kanata. It seemed to hurt his pride and make him feel useless. She simply smiled sweetly at her own phrase and said nothing, and her smile was so sincere and warm that for a moment all worries retreated. Tamaki Saki waved goodbye to her friends and went to her room. Kanata felt relieved. Finally, the crowd had dispersed and it was quiet. He wondered if he should leave the doors open until the others returned. There was nothing else to do anyway. Kanamorei showed up out of nowhere. It seems they've lost a member of their squad, Minadzuki Yohei, nicknamed Spearman. Indeed, he often comes here. Kuramochi also said that he was supposedly very worried about the fact that the boy had missed training again. The wanted man looked like he had been caught off guard. His face instantly turned pale and his eyes darted from side to side. He had to quickly find an excuse for his absence. He apologized and said that he felt sick and decided to rest in the store because the air conditioning was on. But Kanata was wary of the hero's formal manner of speech. Kanamorei grinned strangely behind his back and said that he understood this turn of events. His lips stretched into a sly half-smile, and an unkind light flashed in his eyes. What was he planning? He began to taunt. This is where the heroes of the third squad gather. They use this store as a place to rest and support each other as compensation for their worthlessness. Grinning, he summed up, "It is quite a suitable place for scum." The water mage continued. There are almost no goods here. Soon everything will be overgrown with grass. But he met resistance from 3 people. Really, who does he think he is? An otaku like him shouldn't be arrogant because he got a strong skill. Minadzuki intervened. He was very tense about the growing conflict. He said that they should not be rude to these 2. It was clear from his shaking hands and voice that he was nervous for some reason. A sudden wave of water swept over all the people in the shop at that moment. No one expected it, including Akinos. Water arrows pierced from all directions, as if an invisible archer was directing this elemental performance. What the hell? What was that? The guy hid behind the cash register to avoid becoming a victim of the next wave. Kanamorei stood there with an unperturbed expression, watching all of this. It was as if he was enjoying the chaos he had just created. There was so much water that not only the heroes were floating, but also the objects that had previously been neatly placed on the shelves, and it seemed to have the power to pull everything under itself. No one knew how long this magical flood would last and how to prevent the consequences. So this is Kanamorei's ability? Kanata knew he was strong, but he didn't think it was that strong. He asked the water mage to stop, but in vain. He seemed to be completely immersed in his magic act, not hearing anyone's requests. How dare he, a mere worm, confront Kanamorei himself, a member of the main team? His smile was not encouraging at all, but rather frightening. Kanamorei slowly raised his hand, and the streams of water around him swirled with renewed vigor. He laughed maliciously and was surprised that scum remained scum in the other world, meaning all those who had tried to contradict him a few minutes ago. Suddenly, through the noise of the water and the screams of his panicking classmates, a calm and at the same time commanding voice reached him. To his surprise, he heard it and turned towards the sound. No one had any hope of surviving his performances. Of course, he couldn't ignore it, because it was none other than Kuramochi Yuto himself who was addressing him. He had something important to say to Kanata, so before the water mage washed him away, he had better stop. To ask Kanamorei, as soon as the leader of the squad took a step forward, the magician abruptly lowered his hands and the raging elements instantly submitted to his will. Now something resembling respect, mixed with curiosity, could be read in his eyes. While Akinos shook himself and spat out the water he had swallowed, the leader of the squad himself hovered over him. He greeted him by name. "Hello, Kanata." Although his voice was calm, there was a slight mockery in it. The boy looked up. He said he hadn't expected such cruelty from his classmate. Even though they hadn't spoken for a long time, a month, it seemed that really wasn't a reason to act like that. Kuramochi didn't move a single muscle on his face. What did he want to tell him? Yuto began with a business like, "I'll be brief," and his voice sounded unusually serious, almost official. The interlocutor tensed. He simultaneously recognized and did not recognize his classmate. It turned out he wanted Kanata to leave this city? What was he talking about? The leader of the first squad argued that his presence makes some weaklings give up on reality. It wasn't just the useless third squad that was the problem. Even the members of the main squad were ready to run to Akinos's shop, rather than participate in serious matters. Discipline was collapsing, and Yuto no longer knew how to deal with this epidemic of idleness. The boy said he was worried about that too. He tried to collect his thoughts, but it was hard. There was some bitter but necessary truth in them. Yuto continued. In order to return to the previous world, they must defeat the Dark Lord at all costs. To do this, they must cooperate with each other, act as one. Afterwards, he said that Kanata's ability was not only useless, but also harmful. It distracted the heroes from the task at hand, so he had better leave this city before he was forced to do so. Would the shop owner really be banished from the kingdom? The boy decided to negotiate so as not to lose the most valuable thing he had at the moment. He told Kuramochi that he understood him, but he needed some time to think. Indeed, to be suddenly thrown into an unfamiliar world was too much. But, of course, knowing the leader of the detachment as a person, one could not expect sympathy from him. He laughed and replied that Kanata could think about it, but only until the morning. Although maybe he would show him some mercy by giving him some money for the trip if he got down on his knees and begged. Kanamorei smirked again behind the local authority. The boy replied that everything was fine. Yuto continued to praise his squad, which consisted of only the most select heroes. Victory over the Dark Lord was inevitable. The loser, as he called Kanata, could relax. Inevitable. The shop owner was haunted by this word. Kuramochi said that he was looking beyond the foreseeable future and thinking about what would happen after he won and returned home, namely, how he would save the modern world with his own hands. Akinose looked at him as if he was crazy. Looking into Kanata's eyes, he voiced his crazy plans. In today's society, there is no freedom of thought. Now that he has such incredible abilities and power, he will return like a god and make people follow him. And then the guy realized, it looks like this guy has completely gone off the rails. His eyes were burning with a mad fire, and an unnatural grin appeared on his face. He became even more unpredictable than he was in the previous world. Or maybe this was his true form? Either way, he just needed Kanata to leave this city. Kuramochi was glad to hear that he had understood him correctly. His thin lips stretched into a satisfied smile. Before leaving, he looked after him with a haughty look and told him to pray for their victory over the Dark Lord. His voice sounded so arrogant, as if he already held victory in his hands, although the battle had not even begun yet. Sometime later, Akinose Kanata stood outside his convenience store, happy that he had won it all. After all he had to do was close it and open it again, and everything would be in order. Tamaki didn't understand what he was talking about. She heard that Minazuki and the rest of her squad were in big trouble, and when she came running, she saw that the store was in ruins. She asked if Kuramochi really wanted Kanata to leave the Grandel Kingdom. This is low, and it should never be tolerated. The girl swore that she would tell him everything to his face. She looked as if she was really worried about what was happening. The guy was taken aback. Of course he was pleased to hear this, but wasn't she one of the chosen ones? After all, she was part of the first squad, which included Kanamorei and Kuramochi. Wouldn't that put her in an awkward position? The last thing he wanted was for those in the first squad to be drawn into this matter, and Tamaki Saki was one of them. She replied that in the current group of chosen ones, everyone had different levels of involvement, and she had already told him so. He should pay more attention to her words. But otherwise, everything was fine. Kanata did not even believe it at first. The one who works hardest in the hero training program is Kuramochi. Other than him, there is the water mage Kanamorei and the ice mage Kirishima, as well as the shield mage Mitsuki and Saki, the swordsman. The rest, including the assassin girl, mostly sit back in the palace. Lately, many have even started skipping training due to their lack of interest. It turns out that only 5 take an active position. Of course, it wasn't like that from the very beginning. At first, they all diligently attended lectures. But when the practical lessons on hunting monsters began, everyone began to treat it differently. They had a mock battle with the orcs the other day, and Kirishima, the ice mage, had riddled them with ice arrows, leaving everyone in complete terror. Kanata said that after what happened to Kanamorei earlier, he wasn't surprised at all. The girl replied that Kanamorei was even worse. He could sadistically enjoy prolonging the killing of any opponent, choosing the most painful methods. No wonder she couldn't stand him. Then the guy asked her what she thought about that psychopath. Tamaki immediately guessed that he was talking about Kuramochi. She knew a lot more about him than she wanted to, but she decided to tell him, because this conversation could save him from a lot of trouble. On the surface, he is an ordinary, diligent, excellent student. He always completes his assignments flawlessly and never skips training. That is why he has a good reputation in the palace. His external perfection impresses everyone, but behind the mask of perfection, something else is hidden. But the girl admitted that she personally had always had disagreements with him, and lately everyone was kind of afraid of him. The hero asked her again, as if offering her to tell him in more detail what exactly was going on. The former class chief began her story by saying that after training, they all returned safely to their homes, nothing out of the ordinary, while Kuramochi headed straight to Crusaders' quarters. Kanata thought he was imagining things. So Yudo spends every night alone with the beautiful Crusaders? The hero calls him a lecherous idiot. To ease the tension, he says that Tamaki's priorities and grievances are quite unusual, which seems to catch her off guard. It turns out that Kuramochi has become the queen's lover and is actually considered the future ruler of this country, so even Minazuki decided not to contradict him. Kanata concluded that he was clearly afraid of him, recalling recent events. On the other hand, if they were mistaken, they could be accused of plotting against the favorite of the entire royal court and severely punished. The girl wearily noted that it had become very difficult to talk to the arrogant authority of the first squad. Kanata was thinking, after defeating the Lord Kuramochi, he was clearly planning something bad. Tamaki Saki decided to relax a little, and was already laying a blanket on the floor of the store. Time passed. Only a few hours remained until dawn. It seemed that now that this psychopath had seized power, he and Kanata would become blood enemies forever. Because of all the worries of this day, the hero could not even sleep. He sighed heavily. Akinose hoped that at least Tamaki would be able to bring the leader of the First Division to his senses. But perhaps it really was better not to block his path. While he was thinking about this, the assassin girl had already seen her 10th dream. Suddenly, out of nowhere, fiery arrows hit the shop windows with a deafening roar. Blinding flashes illuminated the room, seriously frightening the hero. The young man rushed to wake up his friend. At first, she didn't quite understand what had happened. Kanata took her hand and pulled her deeper into the building, squeezing her hand tightly. The girl, half asleep, tried to understand what had happened. Her mind seemed frozen in a fog. He told her that they needed to check the surveillance cameras. They had probably recorded whoever had tried to disturb their peace. Suddenly, they saw the queen on horseback, surrounded by armed guards. This is Crusaders. Tamaki hid behind her classmate. She was clearly not prepared for this. Kanata also didn't think that the head of Grandale herself would come to deal with him. The hero realized that she had definitely come to drive him out of here on Kuramochi's orders. Tamaki didn't believe it. Why would they complicate the situation so much? Who knows? Maybe it was done to intimidate. Maybe they hoped that they would retreat. They heard the ringing voice from afar. It echoed through the corridors, making the air tremble. The sound grew clearer. The Queen of Greydale, Crusade, had come to make her presence known. It turns out that they have declared the shop owner a heretic by the church's decision, allegedly siding with the Dark Lord. Kanata heard everything correctly. From that moment on, he is banished from their kingdom forever. And that's not all. Kanata learned that he had committed countless horrible crimes over the past month. But what kind of nonsense was this? When did Akinos, who spent most of his time in the store, become such a horrible criminal? Tamaki stood up for him. She said that he would never do something like that. It was an outright lie, crossing all boundaries. But, unfortunately, for them it looked not like loyalty to a friend, but like a denial of reality. The hero, who had received dozens of baseless accusations against him, bowed his head over his desk. It was obvious that Kuramochi had simply told them nonsense in an attempt to tarnish his reputation. How could a person stoop to such a level? The queen continued her accusatory speech, without giving him even a chance to think it over. She ordered him to submit immediately and leave the country. Otherwise he would be burned along with his shop. Kanata thought, if he can't avoid this horror, he should at least get Tamaki out of here. He pointed his finger at the back door and told her to run before it was too late. The assassin girl was taken aback. She said that she could not leave him here alone under any circumstances. They should run away together. To which the criminal replied that they were hunting him, and that if she stayed, she would not escape the same fate. The shop owner said he would simply give up. Fortunately, he had a choice. The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. He looked around his shop, perhaps for the last time. The girl again quietly said that she did not want this. Her voice trembled like thin crystal, ready to break at the slightest touch. Fear and indecision were visible in her eyes. Lowering her head and blushing a little, she reminded him of her promise. No matter what happened, she would always protect him. She even seemed to tear up a little. Was the class chief always this emotional? Kanata looked surprised. Akinase lightly ruffled her soft hair and told her not to worry about anything. His warm fingers slid gently through the silky locks, as if trying to convey a piece of his calmness to her. He said that if they managed to escape and meet again, he would let her use the toilet. He would also buy her more seaweed onigiri. All she had to do was do as he said. This answer stunned the girl. She sent him away. After all, she came to the store every day, not for any benefits, but only because he was there. The hero did not pay attention to what the assassin girl was trying to express with these words, and threw her out the door for her own safety. Kanata threw some stupid words at her, saying that he would pray for their squad to defeat the Dark Lord, and asked her to take care of herself until the end. With tears in her eyes, Tamaki admitted she had met a rare idiot. She forbade him to die and strictly ordered him to remember her promise. Kanata waved his hand at her. Her words stuck in his mind. For a while, he just stood there and looked in the direction Tamaki had run. Hearing strange sounds behind him, the guy turned around. Akinose told the guards that he was surrendering and would not even resist. With his whole appearance, he demonstrated to them that he was unarmed. They surrounded the boy, their swords practically at his throat. They were sharpened to razor sharpness, but Kanata maintained an outward calm, despite the storm of emotions raging inside him. The queen supported his decision to surrender. It was a good choice for a criminal. Standing with his hands raised, the hero noticed how firmly she was sure that he was really guilty. Looking down on him, Crusade said that they would most likely never see each other again. That's probably why she called him useless without any hesitation. The guards threw him out, and he went, not knowing where. The heavy door slammed behind him. The boy walked, lost in his dark thoughts, and pondered what had happened. It was unfair. Why, of all people, did he turn out to be useless? What had he done wrong? Meanwhile, the twilight was gathering over his head. Where to go was still unclear. The uncertainty irritated the hero. Walked deeper into the Saladas forest, he noticed that it was pitch black. The dense canopy of ancient trees formed an impenetrable vault above his head. Fallen leaves and small branches crunched under his feet, creating an unsettling accompaniment to his steps. Besides, it was so dark here that even the fields around his grandmother's house didn't seem so gloomy. He looked around fearfully, feeling an unpleasant chill run down his spine. Kanata even felt like the darkness was alive. The hero would like to return to the city right now, but if he is caught, he will be burned alive, because now he is exiled. If this continues, Kanata will become a dead hero from their class. At night in the forest, even the slightest rustle of trees is frightening. Akinose kept looking around, listening to every sound. His heart pounded wildly whenever a branch snapped in the distance or an owl hooted. But then he remembered something. If he had the shop skill, didn't that mean he could recreate it anywhere just by thinking about it? He decided to test it by ordering the shop to appear right here and now, and his instincts were right. While scanning the cameras around the store, Kanata noticed ferocious wild animals stalking him. Each camera was recording the approaching threat. Their movements seemed coordinated. They seemed ready to attack. Oh shit, they're surrounding him. The guy realized that they were clearly attracted by the light. He needed to turn it off in the entire store as soon as possible. But looking around, he didn't immediately realize where the switch was. His breathing became intermittent, and his heart was beating against his ribs with furious force. Sweat trickled down his forehead, blurring his vision as Kanata continued his frantic search. Was he gone? Akinos realized with horror that he was the owner of a convenience store, which meant he had never had to turn off the lights here before. Was there really no switch anywhere? Maybe it responded to clapping? Kanata realized that it was worth at least barricading the entrances. It would be better than nothing. He began to carry out and place boxes near the door to protect himself as much as possible. How did this happen? Suddenly, he heard some rustling. Turning towards the source of the sound, he saw two bloodthirsty predators. They had already penetrated the building. Their yellow eyes glowed like two blazing fires, and their bared mouths were drooling, highlighting their sinister fangs. All he could do was wait in silence. These creatures looked different from the usual feral dogs and wolves. They seemed to be some kind of monsters. Kanata thought he would definitely be finished if they decided to attack him. He had already, in general, resigned himself to the fact that they would gobble up all the food products lying on the shelves. Kanata only wanted them not to get to him. But then he accidentally dropped some object, which, of course, attracted their attention. The guy thought, this is the end. The wolf-like creatures became suspiciously alert and began to look for the, quote, hero of the occasion. Their nostrils trembled, catching the slightest smells, and their ears were alert, like locators. Instincts told them prey was nearby. The search did not take much time, and now the young man was already watching this strange and terrible animal rushing towards him, and another one running after it. Time, as luck would have it, slowed down, and every moment began to last like an eternity. But luckily the door was locked, and he had a little time to quickly figure out what to do next. Kanata didn't waste a second. His brain worked at incredible speed, going through all possible options for salvation. The lack of this time, of course, made him very nervous. The first thing he saw was a fire extinguisher, kept in case of fire. It didn't matter to him what he attacked with, so he was glad of this find. He pulled the pin on the fire extinguisher and aimed the hose at the unwanted guests. Hey, you wolves! How do you like that? A stream of foam shot out of the nozzle, hitting the nearest predator in the face. The animals bared their teeth but did not dare to come closer. They clearly had not expected such a maneuver. Kanata regained his confidence. He needed to continue in the same spirit, and then they would scatter in all directions. Suddenly, what is this? They are making their way through the foam? That's all we need. The fire extinguisher worked for only a couple of seconds and died? The guy was talking to it as if it were alive. Really? What kind of joke is this? After all, a little more, and he would die here. Realizing that the extinguisher wouldn't work again just by asking, Kanata let out a nervous laugh. His shoulders shook, his fingers still clutching the empty canister. The laugh echoed off the walls, sounding unnatural in the silence. Despair washed over him. It seemed he would really be the first to die here. He would become an excellent prey for the very first monsters he ever encountered. Kanata thought. How useless he was. He exhaled and leaned against the door, where hungry wolves, or something like them, were already scratching. The fire extinguisher was lying nearby. The boxes he had originally hoped would save him were scattered everywhere. Mom, Dad, Cat, Mimi. They are probably worried and thinking about him now. Their images popped up in his memory one after another. These memories gave him strength, but at the same time, they tore his soul apart. He wondered if Tamaki had escaped. He instantly recreated her image in his mind. She was as smiling and hopeful as ever. Was she unharmed? He owed it to his family to survive, but also to her. If she suddenly found out that he had died here, would she cry? At their last meeting, her eyes showed concern and maybe even tenderness. Could he be wrong? These thoughts clouded his mind. They weren't particularly close. But why was the hero thinking about her in his possibly last moments? Maybe he felt something more than friendship or sympathy for her. Or maybe it was just a defensive reaction? Everything seems to have calmed down. The guy looked at the cameras and peered behind the door to check. The silence at that moment seemed unnatural to him, almost ominous. After everything that had happened, suddenly, no sound, no rustle. Behind the door he saw his shop, ravaged, with broken glass and food products scattered here and there. Every corner bore traces of an alien invasion. Gone. It seemed he had survived. Shielding his face from the sunlight, Kanata assumed that monsters were afraid of the rays of dawn. Every muscle in his body ached from tension and fatigue, but he was alive, and that was all that mattered. A system window appeared, informing the hero that his store level had increased. He didn't expect that. What just happened? It wasn't just voices in his head, was it? After such a long day, Kanata no longer knew what was true and what wasn't. The endless stream of events had almost driven him crazy. Kanata remembered that he could check his status at any time just by thinking about it, and decided to take advantage of this opportunity right now. Looking at his stats, he realized that his level had increased because he had been able to protect the store. That's it. Besides that, he noticed some other changes. So much had been added, and he was so eager to check it all out. But that would all happen later. Kanata fell exhausted, his face buried in the marble floor tiles of his shop. The last hours flashed before his eyes in a kaleidoscope of events. Fighting monsters, running away, desperate attempts to survive. This day was full of all sorts of incidents, and the poor shop owner just wanted to sleep. He felt how tiredness was rolling in waves, and his thoughts were becoming more and more vague and hazy. Soon he was so drowsy that he heard neither the neighing of a horse outside the window nor any sign of trouble. Meanwhile, the shadows thickened on the path of the wandering Mrs. Tina. It was too early to rejoice in the peace. The noise had woken him up after all. Kanata's eyes slowly opened, and anger, mixed with fury, flared up in them. This would be his second sleepless night. What happened again? Were Grandale's knights on his tail? That couldn't be. If that were the case, Kanata would have been killed earlier. However, someone's dying screams could already be heard nearby, the guy thought, leaning his elbows on the edge of the table. If not them, then who? The cameras are all clear, so there's nothing left to do but go and sort this out personally. In person, peering around the corner of a nearby tree, Kanata noticed what looked like a carriage nearby. Several dark figures surrounded the carriage, and the horses nervously twitched their ears, sensing danger. It seemed that bandits were attacking her. Looking closer, he saw a horrific sight. A man was kicking a man to death while his partner sat nearby and watched. Dead bodies were lying everywhere, and somewhere behind the carriage, he could see bags and other accomplices. What a horror, Kanata realized. He had to get away from here as quickly as possible before he was noticed, but it seemed too late. The strange people turned in his direction. Their eyes flashed with an unkind fire in the semi-darkness. A young girl ran past, distracting their attention from the hero. They shouted something after her, but she tried not to look in their direction. Her lungs were already burning from running so fast, and her heart was ready to jump out of her chest. Kanata noticed her and was even surprised that someone had survived. She looked terribly frightened, and fresh tears glistened in her eyes. Her trembling shoulders and her fingers clenched in fear spoke louder than any words. Then he realized he absolutely had to protect her. But how? His mind was torn between fear and the need to act, but the decision was in no hurry to come. The hero was overwhelmed by panic, which prevented him from thinking clearly and soberly assessing the situation. Help her? But he realized that he couldn't defeat them on his own, especially since they were armed. The girl continued to run. Each of her little steps echoed in his mind as a sharp pain. Kanata heard the bandits talking among themselves. It seemed they weren't planning on killing her. Instead, they were planning on taking her alive and having some fun. Rage boiled in his chest as the true meaning of those words sank in. Morality replaced fear. The young man clenched his fists. He couldn't just leave her in trouble. After all, he was from another world. He had a special responsibility on his shoulders, to protect those who needed it, even if he was banished from the kingdom. Then he remembered his abilities and decided to build a shop right there. True, he has to use a very awkward spell to do so. But for a good cause, one can endure a moment of shame. Nobody expected this. The girl's eyes lit up, and hope for salvation appeared in them, and the bandits, in turn, were taken aback. And, taking advantage of the moment, Kanata opened the shop's blinds. Hearing the invitation, the girl instantly dove into the shelter of her savior, barely holding back the trembling in her knees and trying not to breathe so as not to attract unnecessary attention to herself. The bandits realized that they had to aim at the legs only when the magazine canopy was already lowered, and it was impossible to hit them with a bow, so the reaction could save the lives of 2 people. The store is safe inside. Kanata only has to decide what to do next. He's in deep trouble. His thoughts are jumbled, his heart is pounding, and only the worst possible scenarios are spinning in his head. Monitoring the situation on the cameras, he saw the bandits trying to get inside. This did not give him confidence. There were too many of them. The group worked professionally, dividing into small groups to cover a larger area. Kanata had just thought that the troubles were over, and then out of nowhere a new one appeared. The mysterious stranger stood behind the hero, not understanding how to thank him. He, in turn, only now managed to take a good look at her. Her big eyes were shining with happiness. But it was clear that the girl had not yet recovered from what had happened. She was holding herself in space rather uncertainly. What if there was a threat lurking here too? Kanata looked at her and thought that she was quite pretty. He also suggested that she might be of the elven race, but quickly refuted it. However, there was no time to think about it. These strange people in black were hammering inside. The girl's face expressed fear again, so something had to be done urgently. Meanwhile, they had already pierced a hole in the canopy with a spear. This was visible to the naked eye and on the cameras. Thanks to the computer, the guy also saw that he would have to deal with as many as 3 bandits and began to mentally prepare for the fight. Kanata was upset. On the other hand, what else could one expect? Fire shutters wouldn't last long, especially in a situation like this. The nice lady was nervous and tugged at his jacket, as if trying to figure out if this was real. When he turned around, he saw how hopeful she was looking at him. Her puppy eyes would melt anyone, and if he were a cool hero with superpowers, he would have saved her beautifully and effectively long ago. But alas, reality is an evil thing. The little girl needed some comfort. Kanata put his arms around her shoulders and, looking into her eyes, told her that he would distract the bandits when they broke in. During that time, she would be able to escape. He told her that she shouldn't be afraid while he was here, because he would protect her. The girl was pleasantly surprised by his courage, and she was a little embarrassed and even smiled slightly. This could not help but please. The cracking of the window glass and the shouts of the bandits made them turn around. The 3 scoundrels were already in the building and demanded that the runt, That's what they called Kanata, show himself. They kicked and smashed everything they saw. They seemed to be angry at the unknown. Really, what kind of building is this? Enough of these games. Suddenly, one of them notices a closed door and points a finger at it to the others, hinting that the victim and her rescuer might be hiding there. Kanata only had time to think about them coming when a sharp sword was already cutting the door near which they were standing. The guy ducked down so that if they noticed him, at least not right away, he needed to figure out quickly what he could do. Then he remembered how he had managed to drive away the ferocious monsters yesterday. The fire extinguisher! Kanata prepared to use this wonderful tool again. Fortunately, it was at hand. While the criminals were stunned, the girl would be able to escape. He had already told her his brilliant plan when he suddenly noticed something was wrong. The camera on the computer was signaling that there was another bandit wandering around outside the store. Seriously, this ruins everything. What should the hero do now? He could attack him and let her escape, but then he wouldn't be able to detain those inside. The lack of versatility in his original plan didn't suit him. They had to think as quickly as possible. An axe was seeping through the door, and the bandits themselves were tearing their throats out, threatening to kill both of them. The girl huddled in a corner, barely holding back her tears. Suddenly it dawned on him. The fire alarm! It could be the key to saving the girl. The attackers were unlikely to expect such a move, while for the guy it seemed like the only real chance to break free. The people of Grandale were also initially very frightened by the sound, as it was a relatively new technology for this world. The old-timers shook their heads, whispering of witchcraft, while the youngsters peered out of their windows curiously, searching for the source of the sound. The guy grabbed a box of matches and, striking one of them, brought it right up to the device on the ceiling, confident that the bandits would also not be prepared for such a surprise. And Kanata was right. They were really extremely stunned and frightened by this. When the water started pouring, they did not immediately realize what was happening and where to go. The bandits rushed about like cornered animals, not understanding how to get out of this element. The bandits thought it was magic and fell to the floor, either from surprise or because the tiles had become too slippery. Their eyes widened as they saw their weapons fly out of their hands and hang in the air, as if obeying an unknown force. Besides, this sound will not only distract the bandits from their original goal, but also give Kanata, who was hiding under the table with the pretty stranger, a chance to get out of here. Perhaps someone will hear it and come running to help. Suddenly, the boy and girl heard a wild roar. Could it be that a black wolf had gotten in here? I really wouldn't want to take even more risks now and scare this nice lady even more. Kanata looked wary. Were these really the same monsters from last night? It was time to turn off the fire alarm. The rushing water died down in an instant, and it became a little calmer, and a little calmer. There was enough noise here as it was. Let's thank the device for doing its job. The bandits' cries of retreat and abandonment of the wounded were heard. At the sight of the monsters, they began to fuss noticeably. No one wants to be eaten, and they did the right thing. They shouldn't have come here in the first place. They even forgot one of them, and the hungry beast immediately loomed over his contrasting silhouette. Kanata and the stranger simply hoped that this whole horror would soon end. She pressed herself against him, covering her ears. The shop owner stroked her head, trying to calm her down. He was sad to hear her sobs. After a while, everything became quiet. Kanata raised his head to check the situation. The girl did not dare to do so. After he was sure she was no longer in danger, he told her that the bandits and the wolves with them were gone and everything was fine now. Her eyes were still hidden under a canopy of thick black eyelashes. Now that everything was quiet and calm again, he had a chance to look at her even better. The perfect oval of her face, the beautifully arranged strands of her hair, and the modest yet expensive outfit. She clung to it as if it guaranteed her salvation. Akinose was confused and realized how strongly certain circumstances could activate some senses and completely dampen others. He was so focused on the problem that he didn't even realize that he had been holding such a sweet girl in his arms the whole time. Kanata didn't know what to do with himself so that she wouldn't think something strange, and she kept looking at him and seemed to be waiting for something. Had he done something unnecessary? But he was just saving her life. The touches were not from any thoughts. He tried in vain to convince himself that he was not bad. He needed to come to his senses. Kanata was surprised. The girl suddenly said something for the first time that evening. She screamed that she was very scared. Fortunately, there was no one in this building who could react negatively to a loud voice. Her emotionality in this situation was quite justified. The shop owner himself almost burst into tears. She again clung to his chest and began to cry bitterly, and he had no choice but to continue stroking her light hair. The hero remembered. Before the monsters returned, he urgently needed to restore the store. After everything that had happened, the building's appearance left much to be desired. A perforated screen and doors, and completely wet parquet. But she was still scared and hurt. Kanata couldn't just leave it like that. He decided he had to calm this sweet stranger down and only then take on everything else. She was so tiny that he could cover almost her entire back with his palms. Kanata hadn't had time to hug her when he suddenly heard the characteristic sound of a system window appearing, informing the hero that his level had increased. This even made him a little angry. Right now, he decided to check his status. Among all the characteristics, the hero's attention was drawn to the light switch plate. It was not there before. The store owner was perplexed. Why did she appear only on the 3rd level? She could have been added from the very beginning. Kanata's rage knew no bounds. The mysterious stranger was even frightened by such a violent reaction from her recently calm protector. Walking through Saladas, the young lady showed Kanata the way to the west. She looked more animated and seemed no longer afraid, despite the fact that the forest almost always hides a lot of scary and dangerous secrets. She took the shopkeeper's hand as if they had been in a much closer relationship with each other for a long time, which made the guy feel extremely awkward again. If everything went smoothly, they would reach the city in a few days. In turn, the stranger was beaming with happiness. She thanked the guy for his deed and also introduced herself as a certain Tina Arnuish. The girl was only 16 years old. She also told him that she was the daughter of Sahara Arnuish, a merchant from the city of Kadena, to which they were heading through this forest. The boy listened with fascination. Despite the fact that she was 16 years old and his age, she seemed quite independent. As Tina continued her story, she couldn't help but recall recent events. The carriage was heading to the kingdom of Grandale to deliver cargo when it suddenly encountered an attack by local bandits. The accompanying servants hid Arnuish during the raid, but unfortunately, they themselves died tragically. It was their bodies that Kanata saw from around the corner. All this, of course, undermined the psyche of the young lady, and it was obvious that she did not like even thinking about it. She asked to bury them and thanked Kanata again for everything. He, for his part, replied that he could not leave everything just like that. His upbringing and moral principles would not allow him to remain indifferent. Tina wanted to ask an immodest question and apologized for it in advance, because she was very well behaved. Her basic respect for others was visible in every remark she made. She thanked her interlocutor for something or apologized to him every now and then. She decided to find out the status of her savior. Was he by any chance some famous magician? The guy was taken aback. He was a completely ordinary person. You could even tell by his clothes. He couldn't even imagine that someone could confuse him with a magician. Kanata also gave his name and said that he technically had the title of shop hero from another world. He wanted to say that it wasn't quite what he expected, but then Tina asked him if he really hadn't always lived here. She was very surprised. Could he really be a legendary hero from another world? The girl's eyes widened, and the hero thought that her jaw would drop from delight. Kanata couldn't even imagine that this was something special. Tina began to tell about what she had heard. In the Kingdom of Grandale, everyone knows about the existence of heroes from other worlds. There are many books and legends about them, which tell how exactly they defeated evil and saved the world. The young lady herself has read a lot about this. The guy thought that they were given a status here similar to that of King Arthur, Perseus, or Yamato Takeru from Japan. If so, it was a great honor to be on the same list with all these people. On the other hand, if Tina found out that Kanata wasn't really a hero at all, but just an outcast, she would most likely be disappointed in him, and even the thought that this would most likely be the case upset him. To avoid thinking about all this, the shop owner decided to ask the girl if she knew the way back from this forest. She answered in the affirmative. The girl explained she traveled a lot along trade routes, since the nearest settlement from here is her hometown. Tina also offered the hero to become his guide and looked at him as intently as before, waiting for an answer. Kanata hadn't even thought that it was possible. When he asked her, she expressed her pleasure. He realized, this cutie is ready to help him in everything. In the end, he agreed to accompany him. But one thing was bothering him. Always. Even while they were walking, eating, or doing gymnastics, she always held his hand. Kanata wasn't used to this and wondered if all the girls in this world were so brave. For him, an eternal loner, it was pure torture. Sometimes he couldn't hide his embarrassment, and she would turn her worried little face to him to find out if everything was okay, in case he suddenly needed her emergency help. He would reply that he was fine, mistakenly calling the girl by a pet form of her name. Fortunately, he had enough attentiveness, reaction, and self-control to quickly correct himself. At such moments, Kanata tried to change the subject. He assured Tina that they needed to get out of this forest as soon as possible, before they were attacked by monsters or bandits again. The hero asked this young lady if all the monsters in this world were nocturnal creatures, to confirm whether he had correctly assumed this when he first encountered the wolf-like creatures. He also gave them as an example so that the girl would understand. Tina replied that yes. However, there are many monsters with strong magic that can move under the sun. Unlike monsters, bandits operate even during the day, so the heroes should be on guard. Kanata agreed with the girl's words, and he himself thought that it was scary to know that the level of danger remained the same, even after everything. The boy also decided to ask Arnuish where exactly they were going, meaning Kadena. Kanata wanted to know if he understood correctly that he was also under Grandale's control. The hero's tense face could have given away his anxiety that he would actually like to avoid places connected to that kingdom. But since Tina sees him practically for the first time, she knows nothing at all about his recent tragic past. Milady explained that Kadena was an independent fortified city that had been founded by free traders. It still thrived in trade, and was one of the most famous trading hubs on the continent. Kanata was surprised. There must be freedom there? He became interested even from one story. The girl replied that she was not sure about freedom, but she was pleased to note that the atmosphere in it was unimaginably beautiful. It turned out that it would take about 10 days to get to Kadena on foot. During the day, the heroes walked through the forest, and at night they hid from bandits and monsters in a store. Tina really liked the products in the guy's store, especially the BLT sandwich and milk tea. She exclaimed every time that it was simply delicious, and Kanata warned her to eat more slowly, because it could cause choking. Kanata asked the young lady if he understood correctly that their world had been at war with the Dark Lord's army for over 100 years. She confirmed this and said that this year marks exactly 100 years since the first battle. The girl's words left the hero in deep thought, because when he first arrived here and heard Queen Crusade, it seemed to him that the crisis had happened just recently, and that they had time to train the heroes. How wrong he was. Looking at Tina Arnuish, he heard how much people had lost during so many years of war. They say that the territories under the control of the Dark Lord only continue to expand. To remedy the situation, the kings of the various lands began the so-called summoning ritual. It is hard to realize that in recent years, no country has been able to successfully carry it out. For the first time in 12 years, the good news came that a hero from another world had been successfully summoned to the kingdom of Grandale. And not just one, but 31. Kanata now understood. Their entire class had been summoned to make up for the shortage of members in the army. In this battle with the Overlord's army, people saw some hope for the first time. Everyone, without exception, placed great hopes on the heroes, that is, on them, the high school students, who could not even imagine that they would have to participate in something like this. After listening to the girl, the hero said that he understood, although he was not sure that he could live up to everyone's expectations. Tina objected and said that Mr. Kanata, as she called him, was a strong, handsome, kind, sensible, and wonderful person, which confused the guy again. His cheeks turned treacherously pink, and his gaze involuntarily turned to the side. She reminded him that he was the one who saved her life. That fact alone made her consider the shop owner, Akinose Kanata, the greatest hero. Her voice trembled with emotion, and her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. The boy wanted to thank her, and then wondered, Does he deserve these honors at all? Memories of his own failures were rushing through his head. Can someone like him really be considered a hero? After all, even though he came here from another world, it is worth remembering that he was still banished. In addition, he was called useless, and now this nickname is firmly carved into his characteristics. He thought that maybe he shouldn't tell her about it. He couldn't tell her the truth now anyway. So the best thing to do would be to just say thank you and pretend that everything was okay. Kanata decided to leave this conversation for later. The girl did not lose her enthusiasm and wanted to ask him something else. Tina tried to find out in a wheedling tone what the hero was planning to do after arriving in the city, to which he replied that he had no specific plans for that matter yet, and, to tell the truth, he never had any. The girl was delighted and invited him to stay with her, arguing that her father would be happy to accept the man who saved her daughter's life. Besides, our newish really wanted to listen to the guy's stories, assuming that he had an endless number of them. Her eyes lit up with childish curiosity every time he started talking about his adventures. Kanata felt awkward, admitting that he knew very little about this world. On the other hand, it was a good excuse to stay for a while with those who lived here. He hoped that he would not inconvenience the girl's family, but she said that she would be only too happy. When the hero thanked her, she replied that it was a given, waving with a slight smile. It seemed that she truly considered helping others something as natural as breathing. There was no falsehood in her voice. By the way, Akanose didn't think about the future at all. Well, he didn't really have time to do that. The range of goods in his store had increased significantly. That could mean that now was a great time to start a business. Besides, hiding in the store all the time is not an option. You need to gradually get out of your comfort zone and learn more about the outside world, to be prepared for all the vicissitudes it can throw at you. Strangely, the guy began to be filled with enthusiasm. He was surprised to find that having a goal could be really cool. Previously, he thought that such aspirations were the lot of naive dreamers. But the reality turned out to be much more prosaic. He was in a hurry to get to the city with his new, enthusiastic, sweet partner. She, of course, supported this initiative very much. Despite the fact that he himself was rather reserved, next to her, he became more energetic. 10 days later, they finally arrived in the city of Kadena. Tired but hopeful, the travelers stopped to catch their breath and look around. Despite the long journey, the travelers realized that their adventure was just beginning. The girl pointed the way to Kanata with her hand and proudly declared that this was her hometown. Like, look how beautiful it is. And indeed, it was impossible to tear your eyes away from the landscape that opened up. The city turned out to be simply enormous. Kanata saw various ancient structures against the backdrop of massive mountain cliffs. When he came here, he had no idea that it was so beautiful here. Being an otaku, he couldn't help but notice that they could even hold anime festivals here. Tina didn't quite understand him, because it was so far from what people were into here. Kanata tried to express it in other words. There are a lot of people. The hero explained that in his home world, anime festivals are always crowded, just like here. She listened to his story with interest, imagining this incredible atmosphere of universal unity among fans of Japanese culture. Tina said that it was very nice, and that she had heard stories from other heroes about Akihabara and Ikebukuro. She also really hoped to see them. The hero was touched by how different everything was here. His thoughts were occupied with the future. If he could return, would he be able to take this sweet girl with him? Would they be able to be happy far away from this world? She deserved a better future, and he could give it to her. After all, together they could have great adventures in this world, and even defeat the Dark Lord. But what then? Could it be that he will see the transported Tina in his world? Will they be able to live happily ever after? Realizing that this was most likely impossible, the hero almost cried. Such happy endings do not happen in life. He accidentally voiced this conclusion out loud, which surprised his partner. Tina was so happy to finally be back home after everything that had happened to her. Tears came to her eyes. As if reading Kanata's thoughts, the girl took his hand again and said that they were here only because of him. She also said that she could not thank him enough in her entire life, because this service was priceless. She begged the hero to let her express her gratitude in another way. Kanata didn't quite understand what she meant. The young lady asked him to take care of her further, while she would live only for him. He was amazed by her words and could not understand whether there was a single person in the world whose heart would not stand still from her angelic eyes and words. Kanata began to assure her that he had done nothing special, but the words stuck in his throat. Her delicate hands trembled slightly as she clutched the folds of her dress. Never before had he encountered such sincerity and devotion. Rather, he should thank Tina. Only he needed to quickly come up with some reason to do this. Confused, the hero said that without her, he would have been lost in this forest, and only God knows what would have happened to the hero next. The girl was very happy to hear that she could help her savior in some way. She repeated her request again, ignoring the hero's nervous laughter and his embarrassment. Suddenly, Kanata noticed something. It was their turn! The guards looked at them attentively from under their helmets. The air suddenly froze in tense anticipation, while their heavy gaze studied each of the travelers. Tina's joy knew no bounds, and the guy seemed a little stunned. Is that all? Isn't it all too easy? Maybe Tina's father had more power than Kanata thought? If the girl he saved turned out to be the daughter of a millionaire, it would all sound like a typical romance manga plot. Tina said she had a special pass. The guy also wondered about the origin of all those people who stood in line with them. Their faces were so different. But at the same time, something united them. Could they all be citizens of Kadena? He sighed again about his fate. If he were cool, he would be a classic protagonist, and Tina would be the heroine. Why did he get such a useless power? The young lady asked the hero to look less closely. It was embarrassing. The girl said that this whole crowd lined up here for the right to receive the very pass that she has. You can't see anything from here, but they also have an area called Zastenye. Kanata replied that he didn't quite understand. Tina explained that these were temporary workers. Many of them came to the city to work and then returned to the wall. Most of the people in line were from there. As for that area, it is located beyond the southern wall of the city. The people living there do not have the rights of the citizens of Kadena. The hero asked if that area was then essentially a completely different city. How huge this Kadena was then. Narrow streets, unfamiliar signs, endless turns. All of this made his head spin. Kanata was worried about only one thing, that he wouldn't get lost here. Then Tina took his hand. She decided to take him to her home. It was obvious that the girl missed her loved ones very much. Kanata silently followed her, admiring how the girl transformed at the thought of her family. Smiling, she said that she wanted to introduce him to her father as soon as possible. The hero looked at the intertwining of their palms and probably thought about how quickly and swiftly the course of events was changing. After walking through several narrow, densely populated streets arm in arm with his sweet partner, Kanata approached the designated place and gasped. A huge building appeared before him. Could this really be her home? And was she really a noble lady whose hand the hero should not have held? Kanata felt as if a story had begun with the telling title, A Bride from Another World for the hero. In any case, whether he wanted it or not, it turned out that his guess was correct. This little girl really is the daughter of a rich man. She just didn't understand what was so strange or wrong about it. The guy hoped not to get reprimanded for all the actions he had taken towards the girl, despite the fact that there seemed to be nothing special among them. Suddenly, a man came out to them. Tina threw her arms around him to hug him. Adonis, that was his name, told her he thought he was going to die when he heard about the attack. But now he was very glad that the girl and her companion remained alive. She, in turn, apologized for causing him to worry. The situation was not her fault at all, but then again, apologizing with or without reason was quite in her nature. Arnuish introduced her savior to the man. He said that he was the butler of the Arnuish family, and that he thanked him from the bottom of his heart for saving Lady Tina. Kanata said that it was not worth it. Suddenly, someone called out to the girl. From the girl's words, Kanata realized that it was her father. This big man also seemed to express joy that she was still alive and extended his hand to her. Kanata, seeing this, was very happy about the good ending of this whole story. Tina had survived safely and was reunited with her father, and he was pleased that he had been able to facilitate this. Suddenly, Tina's father hit her. But for what? The man began to accuse the girl of returning without the cargo and thus losing important family assets. He called her a useless girl and said that she might not even return home until she compensated for the losses and profits. Kanata was outraged by such behavior of an adult. He was ready to explode from injustice and was already reaching out to sort it all out. The butler pulled him back, saying that these were family matters in which it was better not to interfere. But the hero didn't listen to him. Even if he couldn't hit that fat idiot called his father, he could always say a few sweet words to him for hurting a defenseless girl, and let him just try to hurt her again. He also called Kanata a ragamuffin. Tina, sitting on the cold road, mechanically pressed her hand to her burning cheek, where the blow had just landed. Her voice, usually clear, sounded broken and pitiful. She called Kanata for help, crying bitterly. The guy reminded the fat bastard that Tina was his daughter, who had narrowly escaped death. How dare he call himself a father after that? Every word he said was saturated with contempt for this man, if you could call him that. The conflict was growing. The man didn't plan to give in either. He thought that this young man was taking too many liberties. Perhaps he had forgotten the rules of the city? Tina begged him on her knees to stop. This man risked his life to protect her. Who knows, maybe one day he will save not only the kingdom of Grandale, but the whole world. She also said that Mr. Kanata is not just anyone, but a hero from another world. At these words, the impudent man seemed to smirk. What kind of hero was he if, among all those called, he was the only one who was expelled and recognized as a non-entity? This confirms that he was the most useless and worthless. Kanata clenched his teeth. He wanted the truth to come out in another way. In person or something, but he certainly didn't want to fail in disgrace in front of her family. How would she treat him now after all these words? The father continued, "This is the same scoundrel who committed many terrible crimes." He of course could not know that all these crimes were specially invented in order to discredit Kanata. He thought that even talking to such a non-entity was already ruining the reputation of the Arnuish family, and he chased him away, pointing his finger at him. Tina looked at what was happening with sadness. Here the lady herself rose up. She boldly and loudly, for all to hear, declared that Kanata was her hero and that he did not dare to talk to him like that. Tears glistened in her eyes. The boy listened to this and did not know what to do. No one would believe him anyway. But her father ignored her words. He grabbed her hand and told her that since she had come home alive, she should get back to her work, that she didn't have time to stand around and chat. Tina didn't want that. She cried bitterly and called Mr. Kanata for help, but all he could do in this situation was simply extend his hand to her. Her voice sounded so desperate, so helpless that his heart ached. The hero is in the Zastenia area, but he did not expect that, compared to other areas, this place would look like some kind of ghetto and would be more reminiscent of a slum. The man apologizes sincerely for his brother's harsh words. Kanata thinks he should be the one apologizing. After all, he has no right to interfere in the affairs of Tina's family, although he thought that sooner or later he would break up with her. Even if the guy had taken the girl away by force, it would have created more problems. But the guy, clenching his fists, collects his thoughts and, apologizing for his impudence, asks permission to ask the man a question. He agrees. Kanata wants to open his own business in the city and is interested in finding out where he can find a suitable location for a store. The man reports that, without citizenship, it is impossible to conduct trade within the walls. He offers him an alternative, and to do this in the Carry Wall. According to Adonis, the area offers free access to living and trading, but newcomers are not driven away here, but are forced to settle on the outer side of the area, away from the wall, where the risk of attacks is high, just like a living wall of people. Standing in an empty area, he feels completely defenseless, and hopes that there will be no problems. Kanata exhales heavily. His new life in another world begins, and he is ready for difficulties. People turn around in surprise at the guy's loud voice. Near the store, Kanata calls people to raid the store from another world, which has the rarest goods. People walk into the store in disbelief. They've never seen anything like it. And the guy remembers the people of Grandale. Previously, he tried not to have much contact with local residents, but now his range has increased. And most importantly, he really wants to run this business, so everything will quickly improve. A beautiful girl approaches the hero and asks what a store is. Kanata explains with a smile that the store is a shop that sells rare products and goods from another world and advises them not to be shy. The city's residents are shocked, but they still start buying something. The first customer bought a sandwich. Kanata appreciated its taste. He decides to create a good impression so that people come here again and again. But suddenly, an awkward silence fell between them. Kanata completely forgot to set the price of the product. He is scared because in Grandale he didn't have to spend money. He received a royal allowance, but he didn't even go shopping or spend it. Not understanding the value of money, The boy tries to remember the names of coins, even though he only knows 4 types. A slightly embarrassed young man tries to sort everything out. He sets the price at 1 bronze coin. All the visitors are stunned into silence, and then they rush to the checkout to get goods at a low price, which really scares the main character. The store closed in the evening. Kanata was very tired at work. It was a crazy day for him. Later, a kind woman explained the local currency rate to him. So for 1 bronze coin, you could buy as much as you wanted. If such a store existed in his world, Kanata would go there every day. The guy remembers how happy people were buying everything around them, but now he understands how reckless he was. He reflects that if he had known about the situation, he would have asked Tina about the local currency. He remembers the girl and worries about her, wonders how she is doing and worries that she might be disappointed in him. Kanata misses her and really wants to see her. A month has passed since the store opened. He managed to learn the local language and get used to the hard work in the store. The guy set prices for the goods and a limit of no more than 5 items per person. Made a toilet for visitors only. He set working hours and even 2 30-minute breaks for restocking. Even though the 24 sign on the store sign is a complete lie, the guy hopes that the locals don't understand numbers. There is only 1 cash register in the store, and everything is still greedily supported by Kanata. People from the area have started to take care of it and support it. The hero already begins to consider himself a part of this place. He believes that he seems to have found his purpose in this world, which he had been searching for so long. A man knocks on the guy's door, attracting his attention. Kanata lets in Zaril, who came for the goods. The guy gives him a bag with the proceeds from yesterday, for which the man praises him for his excellent trading skills. Zaril jokingly tells Kanata that he envies him. The man who looks like a suspicious type is actually a merchant from the West. They met about a week ago after the store opened. That day, the guy was going to take a break, but suddenly an unknown man spoke to him, making him nervous. With a grin, the merchant peered into the doorway, offering a very interesting proposal. Kanata was scared because the man looked suspicious. Zaril asked the store owner how he exchanged his earnings, but the guy did not understand what exchange was. The merchant explained that all the guy's goods cost 1 bronze coin, and every day he accumulates thousands, if not tens of thousands of coins. He believes that the guy is definitely facing the problem of storing them. The hero thinks about it. Zaril offers to exchange bronze for gold coins, but of course not for free. He wanted to receive 0.5% of the amount for his service, assuring the guy that it was a good offer. Although the young man was very suspicious of the merchant, he seriously thought about the offer, because there really were too many coins in the store. This is how their collaboration began. At the very beginning of their business relationship, the guy felt uneasy. He still could not understand whether this guy was a good guy or not, but he continued to cooperate with him and exchange coins. But the guys still cooperate. The merchant jokes about Kanata being called the deity of this area, to which he gets embarrassed and asks to stop with the nicknames. Kanata wonders if it's true that in their world, there is only one goddess, Astia. Zaril confirms that the word deity is associated with her. And because of this, not only in Grandale, but all other governments are run by women. And all the great people are also women. Therefore, whose deeds are similar to saints, is revered as the incarnation of the goddess Astia, Zaril explained. Nahak. The guy, although he agrees with this, still finds it strange. He can't get used to it. The very fact of his existence is a miracle, and it doesn't matter who he is, a man or a woman. The merchant is puzzled how the people of Grandale could banish such a hero with such amazing abilities and calls them fools. Kanata is surprised that the rumors spread quickly and reports that he had negotiations with them, but they were unsuccessful. The guy remembers Tamaki and thinks about how she is now. He asks Zaril how things are now in Grandale. The merchant replies that, apart from the information about his exile, it is known that the other kingdoms actively support the heroes, unlike Grandale, which categorically refuses to let the heroes leave the country. Zaril wonders if the hero is really so curious about what is happening in the city, to which he receives confirmation. Although among the many heroes there are some not very good people, his friends are still there, for whom he worries and wants to know how they are now. The merchant winked at Kanata and promised that he would order his men to investigate, because if the hero asked, he would do everything in the best possible way. The boy was embarrassed and thanked the man. The guy, lost in thought, asks Zaril why he treats him so well, since he has no benefit from it. The surprised man does not understand what the young man means. After all, in his opinion, Kanata is the greatest hero of the last few hundred years. This surprises the guy very much. The merchant wants to be honest with him, so he tells him that no one really wants the heroes to defeat the Dark Lord. Kanata is stunned by this news. The war with him has long been part of a huge economic system. If the Dark Lord disappears, then countries that trade resources for battles and mercenaries will lose their jobs, a crisis will begin throughout the world, and millions of people will end up in poverty. This number would be much greater than the number of people killed by monsters. The hero wondered if Grandale was resisting the requests of other countries in order to maintain some kind of leadership. Zura says the world food crisis can be solved in an instant, but only if the guy is here. After all, he has the ability to create resources from nothing in unlimited quantities. This is why the merchant believes that Kana is the true incarnation of the goddess Astia. The hero's face suddenly changes. He asks the merchant again why he decided that the guy can endlessly create goods and products. He does not understand how Zaril found out about this, because he told only Tina about the system of his store. The man only explains his words by the fact that he regularly goes to this store and even organized round-the-clock surveillance for his people, and has never seen anyone deliver goods to the store. And the store building itself appeared too mysteriously, Zaril explains. Kanata understands that he screwed up. The merchant happily reports that he then realized that all the goods would be created right inside. The guy is surprised by such observation. He certainly thought he was smart, but not that smart, so he understands that it is better for them not to become enemies. The hero asks to keep his commercial secret. Zaril agreed and promised not to dig deeper. After all, he considers the guy a valuable partner, much more important than those who kill monsters and would like to continue their peaceful relationship. Kanata also values his partner. Zaril leaves the store, promising that today he will collect news about Grandale and report everything later. The guys say goodbye to each other. Kanata is sitting at the computer and typing something. Here he is distracted by the noise. There is some noise on the street behind the emergency exit. The guy is tense because there is no way the residents of the area could know about the emergency exit. He runs through the worst possible outcomes in his head. He worries that a mercenary from Tina's father might have come for him. A voice is heard behind the door. He calls Mr. Kanata, making it clear that he knows him personally. The hero tenses up and can't believe it. He opens the door, and his suspicions are confirmed. He recognized this voice. A girl named Tina throws herself into the boy's arms. She is very happy to see Mr. Kanata, because she really wanted to meet him. Both are very happy to meet because they missed each other. Both feel the fullness of life again. The girl is still standing in the passageway, not leaving Kanata's side. The guy thinks about the fact that the girl has feelings for him. He also remembers his cat Mimi, who also clung to him so tightly. The guy is embarrassed by such a long hug and thinks about how to end it as soon as possible. He pushes Tina away, causing her to come unstuck. Kanata is glad to meet him and invites the girl to come inside as soon as possible, to which she happily agrees. He asks the girl how she was able to find him in this huge city. The girl says that she heard from Adonis that the guy went outside the walls, and also rumors about the thriving store had already spread, so the girl immediately understood everything. She wanted to come to the guy earlier, but she was forbidden to leave the house. Kanata is upset and says that he should apologize because he didn't tell the girl that he was expelled from Grandale. Tina just looked at the guy understandingly. She told him that he had absolutely nothing to apologize for, which left the guy in a stupor. The girl considers the Parni a great hero and cannot believe that Grandale made such a mistake by banishing him. The people of Grandale must now be bitterly regretting it. It turned out that Tina had been watching the store since noon. This surprised Kanata very much, since the girl had not even told him about it before. She admires the fact that now many people come to his store and they all leave with a smile. She wonders if this is not what every real hero really wants to achieve. Kanata justifies himself by saying that his store simply has cheap goods, and that this does not mean that he is of use to anyone. To which Tina claims that this is not true. She believes in the guy with all her heart, and says that it is thanks to him that this is possible. Tina believes that his ability surpasses any other. Kanata recalls the words of Zaril who, like the girl, said something similar. The girl is the daughter of a merchant, and she has a certain insight into trade. The guy is embarrassed and happy. Tina takes the guy's hands as a support and tells him that she thinks the guy is a truly amazing hero. She also reminds him that he once saved her life, so she considers him the coolest hero in this world. The guy is embarrassed by such an amount of attention and pleasant words addressed to him. The girl dares to suggest that the guy considers himself useless due to his lack of ability to fight monsters. But she thinks this is nonsense, because even if the boy can't fight, he has an infinite potential to save many lives. Tina asks him to be proud of his ability. Kanata is very touched by the girl's support and thanks her. After her words, a weight has been lifted from his soul. She shares with the guy that no matter how the circumstances turn out, she will always be there for him. Suddenly, the girl reaches out for a kiss, which greatly surprises and confuses the guy. He can't believe what's happening. Kanata pushes the shocked girl away, realizing that he is not ready for such developments in the relationship. Embarrassed, he tells her no, scaring Tina. He awkwardly jumps up and starts to fuss, saying that it's time to end the break and open the store because the customers are already tired of waiting. Tina says that it sounded a bit fake, to which Kanata starts making confused excuses. After that, about 2 months have passed since Tina returned. Kanata's shop continues to enjoy incredible success, with more and more customers, and Tina helps the guy out a little in the shop. The girl tells the hero that the flow of customers has died down and he can rest. The guy thanks the girl as he takes away the boxes. He decides to take a little rest and warns Tina about it, asking her to call if something happens. The girl only smiles and asks him to leave everything to her. In the evening, the shop closes. Tina turns to Mr. Kanata. She asks permission to help the guy in the store, which makes him tense. The girl has already told her father that she is going to an apprenticeship, so she may stay here for a long time. The information that Tina may live with him shocks the guy. She is happy that they can now live together, and the guy understands what has befallen him. Tina assures him that she will try her best and asks him to rely on her. Kanata is mesmerized by her smile and understands that it is she he wants to protect. He thinks that maybe the girl is even better than he thinks, and also asks himself if all the merchants Kaden and Zareel are so kind while Tina watches the guy with interest. Here, the guy agrees to take the girl as an assistant. She knows a lot, and, most importantly, she has earned his trust, which calms the guy down, so he asks her to count on him too. Tina thanks the guy, and says that she knows everything about him, so he can be calm, but Kanata interrupts her, clarifying that he meant himself, not the store. But he interrupts and asks the girl again what she meant when she said that she knows everything. Tina says that sometimes the guy calls her Tanochka, which sounds very cute when he talks about the mole on her back and other little things. The guy is surprised and falls to his knees asking her for forgiveness, but the girl only confusedly asks him not to apologize. The store remains extremely popular. Everything works smoothly, and it's all thanks to Tina, so Kanata eats and rests peacefully. In this world, he no longer feels lonely. His life has become so rich that he is happy and calm. In the evening, the guy tells Tina that it's late and it's time for her to rest. But the girl is not going to rest, so sitting at the computer, she advises the guy to rest while she quickly enters today's earnings into the computer. The guy smiles awkwardly, although he is no longer surprised by almost anything except Tina's competence. He thinks that if she had the internet, she would probably immediately figure out how to promote their store through websites and advertising. After some time, the girl finishes work, looks at the guy, turns off the light, and moves towards his bed. She sits down on his bed and looks at the sleeping guy. The guy wakes up in fear and pushes the girl off the bed. Tina clicks her tongue and says under her breath that today is another failure. Kanata just watches her closely. Tina, getting into her bed, wishes the guy good night, while he, covering his face with his hands, suffers from thoughts that if he crosses the line there will be no turning back and that it is difficult for him to resist temptation. The guy wishes her good night in return, and the girl just falls asleep, thinking that she is not going to give up and that she will try again tomorrow. That's how their days went. During the day, the guy ran the store, and in the evening he fought with Tina. And then one day the guy heard a sound, after which he realized that his level had increased. He was shocked, because he did not understand what he had just done. Then Kanata realized that only he could hear the sound of the level increasing, and without wasting any time he hurried away, shouting after Tina that he would go to his office for a while. The hero could not understand why this happened, because he did not fight with anyone or defend himself, but still decided to check his status for a system error. The guy really did increase his level because it turned out that you can raise it without fighting anyone but just by managing the store, which is much cooler. He got new goods, a defense system with a drone for reconnaissance, and much more. New icons have appeared on his desktop. Kanata decides to study them, because perhaps the store has new devices, specifically for this world. At first glance, it is difficult to understand their purpose, and it is better not to use them just like that. A guy finds a drone for reconnaissance and doubts its safety. He hopes that it won't cause any harm, so he tries to launch it. Kanata watches on camera a drone that appears to be flying straight from the roof of the store. The drone quickly took off into the air, surprising the guy with its ability to rise so high. He is delighted with the new device and is surprised that the drone can even see a person sleeping on the roof of his store. Suddenly he realizes that the unknown person is sleeping on the roof and goes into shock. Zooming in on the picture, he tries in bewilderment to examine the body that is resting there. He quickly runs and climbs onto the roof to figure out what the one who should be in Grandale is doing here. Having climbed onto the roof, the enraged Kanata begins to shout at the girl, who shudders in confusion from the sharp scream. The boy recognizes the girl. It was Tamaki. She greets him. The clumsy girl, trying to say something, loses her balance and falls headfirst onto the hard floor, hitting her face. Tamaki yells at the guy because he scared her so much, and says that if bruises appear on her delicate skin, it will be his fault. Kanata asks the girl why she is here. The girl just rushes to him, telling him that she came for him. Kanata is perplexed by the girl's words. Zero asks another merchant if this is true, to which the man confirms that the report is accurate. A nervous man looks at the night sky. A piercing roar comes from the mountains. A huge monster emerges from there and hisses. Kanata asks the girl how she got here. Tamaki tells him that during the hero training program, her level increased. She gained the ability to search and track, so she ran out of the city and headed here. The guy is surprised at how the girl managed to get through this forest, because it is dangerous there, and monsters are everywhere. Tamaki was just using her assassin ability called Stealth. Her ability allows her to completely hide her presence. That's why she managed to escape, even when monsters were chasing her. The guy thinks. The girl starts to get hysterical, because she expected to see the guy's admiration and surprise. But he stood and thought about how he envied her two unusual abilities, because his only ability was to create new types of onigiri. Kanata says that it is not so important, and he is more interested in something completely different. Tamaki only awkwardly confirms that she did indeed run away from the training program. The girl complains that the program is becoming more and more difficult, and she has completely stopped keeping up with it. The guy is surprised and asks if she is sure that this is enough to defeat the Dark Lord of Demons. She is not upset at all and is almost certain that the elite group has already been formed with Kuramochi, Kun at the head, and therefore they can easily win without her. Kanata asks how the others are doing and if everything is okay with the girl. She only hesitantly agrees with him. She says that everyone in the third team was worried about the guy. Many were saved by the store within walking distance, but now that he is gone, some have even become recluses. Kuramochi's story as the truth, and thought that the boy was expelled due to his own fault. He only said with annoyance that the guys from the first team did not accept him from the beginning, but Kanata's best friend was worried. The girl also asks the hero if he remembers Asagiri, Reiku, but he remembered little about her. Tamaki tells him that she went missing around the same time the guy left town, and it seems Minazuki-san accidentally met her at the gate. She spoke to him and said that since Aki knows Kun, the former object of her observations was eventually expelled, she also decided that she had nothing more to do in this city. From now on, she decided to travel freely, so she asked Nazuki, Kun, to take care of herself, and wished him well. The guy is shocked that the girl was watching him the whole time. He asks why she did it, but Tamaki herself did not know the answer to this question. The girl asks if she could have chased him, to which the guy replies that he did not see her. The guy asks if it's okay that Asagiri from the third team went alone, to which Tamaki tells him that Reiki-chan has the ability Poem, but she doesn't know what her ability is. Kanata wonders if the girl could try to find her using her search and track ability. The girl just throws up her hands, because without the prophetic person she was looking for, nothing will work out, and she, unfortunately, took everything with her. In this case, the guy decides to contact a merchant with a good reputation, because maybe he has some information about Asagiri. The girl thanks Kanata. She is glad that he is so concerned about Reika-chan and thanks him again. For the guy, this was not something special, but rather obvious things. He sincerely hopes that everyone from his class will survive. He wants them all to return to their homeworld together. The girl is happy about this, and smiles understandingly at the guy. She also believes that they all need to return safe and sound. The guy reasons that the girl's search and track skill cannot be used if she has no goal, and offers to give her something. To which the girl begins to wave her hands and scream embarrassedly, leaving the guy perplexed. It turns out that Tamaki's bag already had the guy's keychain with the kitten on it. She's glad he didn't notice it. She touches her keychain, but Kanata doesn't pay attention. Tina runs into the room, worriedly informing the hero that they are running out of sandwiches. She then notices Tamaki and apologizes in a lost manner for interrupting them. Tamaki only screams in shock. She impatiently asks who the cute girl next to her is. The slightly lost guy remembers that this is their first meeting. Kanata points to the girl and says that she is his hired employee. During the day, they work together in the store, and at night, they share a house and take care of each other. The girl introduces herself as Tina, and says that she is a little clumsy. Tamaki screams with delight. She realized that Tina was just an employee, but she had no idea that the guy could be experiencing a labor shortage. She screams again and offers to hire her too. Tina intervenes in the conversation. She says that she is sorry to talk about it. But since she started working here, the shortage of hands has diminished, so 2 people, in her opinion, are now quite enough. She turns to Kanata, expecting his approval of her words. He is only surprised, but notes that thanks to Tina, everything really has become much easier. But still, there is a shortage of labor. After these words, Tina is upset, and Tamaki is happy. Tina covers her face with her palms in disappointment. The guy tries to calm the girl down by saying that Tamaki can be loud and selfish, and also sloppy like an old man, but she's not that bad. The guy remembers and tells Tamaki that the level of his store has increased a lot. They take her inside the store, causing her to look in surprise at how much variety they have inside. Tamaki is delighted that they have many kinds of sandwiches, rice balls, and drinks. There is also a large selection of sweets such as pudding and melon bread. Kanata proudly reminds his friend that he once had only 3 items. The girl says that she wants to live here for the rest of her life, and throws herself into the guy's friendly embrace, telling him that he is the best. She runs around the store and is amazed by each product, already looking for a Coke that goes well with French fries while Kanata watches her smugly. She is happy to try everything, and jumps with a bunch of food. Tina laughs into her palm and tells the guy that Tamaki-san is very funny. Kanata agrees with her. Despite the girl's eccentricities, she always takes care of her classmates, including him. The guy wants the girl to get along with her too. Tina smiles and apologizes to Kanata for being rude to his best friend. She is honored to have the opportunity to meet heroes from another world. Tamaki chews and says that she will work hard from tomorrow so they can rely on her. The next day, Tamaki howls in exhaustion and asks for a break. Kanata is surprised at how quickly the girl is exhausted. There are no visitors, so they unanimously decide to take a break. The guy thought that for some reason there were far fewer customers today than usual. Tina went to close the door, but there was a customer standing outside. Kanata was surprised because the head of the district, Soshi Melty, was waiting for him outside the door. Although she is called the district chief, there is no clear administrative division in the outside world. She is an elder and often acts as the organizer of meetings for the residents. The woman reports that she really likes these French fries. The gentle and friendly Soshi is loved by all the locals. Outside the wall, she is called the head of the district and mother of the district. She thanks the heroes for their hospitality. And Kanata thanks her in return for accepting him as a newcomer. The woman believes that Kanata has become an indispensable person in their area, so they should be grateful to him. So she asks the guy to introduce her to his employees. Tamaki introduces himself to the woman as a hero from another world like Kanata, and tells her that he is glad to meet her. So she smiles and says that they are honored to have 2 heroes in the outer wall area. Tina also meets the woman and thanks her for taking care of them. Kanata doesn't understand whether Tina is bothered by the fact that she is from the central part of the city or not. So she tells the girl that she looks like an angel. She had been told for a long time that a nice young girl worked here, and she was very glad that she finally saw the one she had heard so many good things about. The girl is very happy and with tears of joy thanks Soshi. because she is also happy to meet her. Kanata is happy that Soshi and Tina have become friends. The guy thanks the head of the district for visiting them today, but wonders whether she came on some business or not. Soshi, putting her hand on her heart, says that she actually came here to tell him something important. She's very sorry, but she wants the guy to leave this place and this store immediately. Zareel appears out of nowhere and fully supports the woman's words. Everyone except Soshi is frightened by the merchant's sudden appearance, Kanata asks, when he managed to appear here. He reports that they were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't even notice him, so he simply walked through the door. He compliments Tina and the leader, but then notices Tamaki and realizes that before he knew it, the number of beautiful and charming flowers had increased. Soshi tells Zareel that he came just in time as she was talking to Akino-san. The merchant apologizes and asks her to continue. To avoid misunderstandings, the woman explains that this is necessary first and foremost to protect Akino-san and the store. The guy looks at the woman with confusion, repeating her words. She explains that this region has been inhabited by an ancient earth dragon since ancient times. It has existed on this land since before the current demon lord created the monsters. It nests in the mountains and sleeps, but once every 4 years it comes down to search for food. Kanata is simply horrified. He screams in alarm and tries to understand why he was told about this only a couple of months after his arrival in the outer environment area. Zareel just scratched his head guiltily because he thought the guy knew about it. He explains that the giant wall in the city is also a defense against the ferocious earth dragon. The boy ponders that the words that newcomers should live outside are a precaution against the ferocious dragon. Kanata wonders what if this earth dragon named Cadiz attacks. What will the people behind the wall do? It's not enough for him to be safe. Zareel explains that, of course, most people are temporarily evacuated, but some still have problems with money and health. Unable to evacuate, they become victims. Kanata doesn't understand why people living in the city can't help them. After all, there are probably several knights in the walled area. And there are enough guards, and if the exact time of his attack is known, can't they at least shelter the residents inside the walls during the attack? Tina says that unfortunately, the gates in the city district will be completely closed, and everyone will start preparing for defense so they won't have time to save the residents of the outer zone. Kanata wonders what this means. Tina sadly reports that there are rumors that after the last Cadiz passed, the outer district was half destroyed, but the residents were safe. But she does not remember the details of the incident. She says that she is very sorry. In support, Kanata covers her hands with his palm. They exchange glances with Tina, and Kanata suggests returning to the original topic of conversation. Soshi sadly agrees and reports that they have received information that Cadiz has awakened and is already moving in their direction. Under the direction of Zareel and their subordinates, the evacuation of residents outside the outer wall has begun. Kanata understands why there were so few people today. The chief says that Cadiz may raid the area this evening and apologizes for the suddenness of the situation. People here have always lived in poverty and had a hard time making ends meet. But with the store, the standard of living has increased, and now everyone can live with a smile. The woman thanks the hero for his store within walking distance. Zareel also says that everyone would like the heroes to be safe. And after Cadiz leaves, so that they return here, the merchant finished his thought. Tamaki turns to Kanata, but the guy asks her not to make such a face. He would like to promise this, but now their opponent is the main monster of the game. Remembering the city's inhabitants, the hero makes a decision. Now Tina is holding Kanata's hand supportively. He turns to Tina, who is sitting next to him. They exchange glances, and Kanata nods his head affirmatively. He happily tells everyone that he has decided everything. Zareel is happy with this news. Zareel says that he will now inform his subordinates to immediately take them to a safe place, because if they go, but Kanata interrupts him, proudly announcing that he is the hero of the convenience store and is going to defeat this earth dragon. The guy's words horrify everyone except Tina. Tamaki mimics the boy's words about being a hero and defeating Cadiz. They shout at the hero, letting him know that these words did not touch them at all. Kanata nervously holds onto the back of his chair, as he did not expect such a protest towards his words. But the guy ignores the protests and tries to find out from the man about the characteristics and general appearance of Cadiz. The merchant just holds his head. He does not understand how one can claim to defeat the dragon without knowing anything about it. but he still says that it is a muscular, strong dragon. It can withstand magic and sword blows, so they gave it the name Cadiz as a warning. Its body is covered with a shell and thick scales, so even the military does not know what to do with it. The guy realizes that this is a rather problematic dragon, with a full spectrum of resistance, and thinks about it. Tamaki panics because even though they are heroes, she is not sure they can do anything. Tina asks if the guy has a plan. The young man has already come up with something, but he hasn't tried it yet, so he's not sure whether it will work or not. Kanata wants to thank the people of the outer wall area for giving him a place where he feels comfortable, but he will need your help to make it happen. The hero understands all the risks, but asks everyone in the room to lend him a helping hand. Tina immediately supports the guy and says that she will always support the interests of those she protects, so she believes in him. She says that she will be happy to help Kanata. They both exchange awkward glances. Tamaki screams sharply. She also volunteers to help the guy, because she believes in him and promised to protect him. She says that she has been friends with Kanata for a long time, so she has no other choice. So she also calls for help, but since she does not have special abilities like them, she will be able to take care of the wounded. Kanata is sincerely happy and thanks everyone. Zaril is tense and doesn't even know what to do. He worries that it could all go sideways because of them. Kanata just laughs and says that if the merchant helps them, then the guy will help him too. Zariel still asks the guy to share with him the secret plan to destroy Cadiz. Night falls, all preparations for the meeting with the dragon are completed. Now all that remains is to light the lanterns one by one. The guy thanks everyone for their help and asks to evacuate those who have finished their work. The people below accept the order. The hero looks down and thinks. Tamaki was put in charge of the drone, so she is waiting for the command from the store to control it. Thanks to the help of others, they have everything ready. And now everything depends on whether the hero can defeat the dragon or not. So far, he has managed to cope, but this time he has to fight a powerful dragon. The guy is worried whether he will be able to defeat him when he sees him up close, because if nothing happens, he will put everyone in danger. Tina carefully approaches the tense guy and asks if everything is okay with him. Kanata shares with the girl that he is actually very scared right now. Tina supports the hero by saying that with their help, he will definitely succeed. Kanata is flattered by the girl's confidence and would like to have the same. Then, Tina decides to tell Kanata the magic words. He is surprised. She tells him that even if he makes a mistake and the whole world hates or rejects the hero, she will always be there anyway, so the guy shouldn't be afraid of failure. She doesn't care if he's kind, brave, or the most cowardly. She will accept and protect Kanata no matter what. He looks at Tina in surprise. She just smiles shyly and asks if her words brought relief. The girl's words really helped the guy and gave him confidence. He tells her that it really was magic. Tina is happy and smiles at the guy. But suddenly, they are interrupted by a roar in the distance and the screams of people. Cadiz arrived and settled in the mountains. The heroes look in amazement at the huge earth dragon. Kanata yells at Tamaki to start guiding the dragon with the drone. The girl reacts quickly and starts actively clicking on the computer. The drone heads towards the dragon. Kanata only gets more tense, because Cadiz is much bigger than he imagined. Tamaki happily pops out of the hatch, announcing that the dragon has gone after the drone and she expects praise. The girl says that they accept the challenge, even though the dragon is huge, although to tell the truth, her knees are already shaking. Tina calms her down and says that everything will be fine. The guy answers uncertainly, probably scaring Tamaki. Kanata thinks that the magazine should not be much smaller than the giant monster. He wants to believe that it will still withstand the collision. The dragon moves quickly towards the store. The heroes hold onto the rope and Kanata orders everyone to prepare for the impact. Cadiz crashes into a building. There is a dull thud. The guys hold onto the magazine with all their might. Kanata gets up and checks if everyone is okay. They were able to survive this stage. But this is far from the end. They take fire extinguishers and move on. The three heroes are determined. They run towards the dragon with fire extinguishers in their hands. The guy orders them to aim straight. The dragon notices the heroes, and they are horrified. The dragon tries to protect its eyes. Although the outer shell is hard, everything inside is soft. The boy decides to focus on Cadiz's eyes and mouth, so he dares Tamaki to do it. The girl is scared and wants to go back to her parents, but she still goes into battle. The guy put the store here to distract Cadiz. The building was supposed to act as a safety net, stop the onslaught on the city, and prevent damage. They needed to make Cadiz retreat and then attack again. Kanata resolutely continues to throw fire extinguishers at the dragon until it falters. He throws a fire extinguisher into his mouth, and Tamaki starts to freak out in fear. Even this doesn't make the dragon retreat, which makes the guy nervous. He really wanted to tear the monster away from the store for at least a second. He turns to the girl to ask for a working fire extinguisher, but she is not in her place. He looks for the girl in confusion, but only Tina is nearby. He asks the girl where Tamaki is and suddenly notices the broken side of the building. Kanata is very scared at the very thought that the girl could fall. Suddenly the dragon roars and spits out all the fire extinguishers right at the hero. He screams down in fear and calls for Tamaki. Some creature appears and attacks out of nowhere, leaving the dark-haired guy in shock. Then a spear flies into the creature's head and pierces it. The main character notices this and does not understand whose it is. Someone behind him mocks him and tells him that she did it. The protagonist realizes that it is Tamaki, turns around but cannot figure out where she is. The girl reports that she used her assassin's stealth to poke out the Earth Dragon's eyes with a spear. The boy realizes that he can't see her because of her ability, and Non tells her that she made him worry. The girl behind him is glad that Tamaki is safe. Tamaki from the void reports that she is one of the heroes. After all, it was easy as pie. The protagonist praises the girl, but the girl behind him appears and reports that she is actually here. Suddenly, 2 cylinders in the dragon's mouth begin to crack from the fact that he is biting them, and suddenly he begins to growl. The protagonist understands that the dragon is approaching the store, and this is very good. Before it crashes again, both girls must leave here and head towards the city. The girl agrees with him and decides to retreat, going down the rope. Tamaki turns around and tells the guy that she's relying on him from now on. The second girl asks the guy to be careful. The main character agrees with a confident smile and asks him to leave it to him. The protagonist also came down and stood right in front of the dragon, challenging him. The dragon roared and released smoke from his mouth. The guy looks at his enemy and thinks that he needs to lure him to the last. After this, the dragon begins to approach the building, and the main character asks the dragon to come closer. At the moment when the dragon breaks off a piece from the store, the guy seizes the moment and orders the store to disappear. Suddenly, the building that the dragon is attacking just disappears, and the dragon is very surprised by this. The main character happily realizes that everything turned out great. The dragon fell into the hole left by the store. The guy understands that all the traps they made still stopped Cadiz. He remembers how he was told that all the preparations were completed. The dragon lies in the pit without strength. The main character ponders that as soon as he thinks, a store immediately appears next to him, but each time there is a slight vibration and a cloud of dust around, because between the store and the ground there is a space into which you can fall. He thinks about what would happen if he did this in the air. He thought he would never have the opportunity to use a technique that required a difference in altitude, but now the conditions are quite suitable. The man sees the rope being pulled and understands that this is a signal. After the signal, he orders all the people to pull the rope at the same time, thanks to which they lift the main character up in a kind of elevator. Then the main character jumps off this elevator straight towards the dragon. He screams at him to try to swallow it. The guy looks angrily at his enemy. The protagonist shouts the word store, and a building appears right above the dragon. Falling right on top of him, the dragon just watches as the building falls down. The next moment, the store already reaches its point and lands on the ground, on the dragon. The main character also continues to be in the air. The dragon roars loudly and coughs up blood from its mouth while the main character lands. All the people look at this situation in surprise and discuss the fact that before this, neither swords nor even witchcraft could take him. But this worked. He has enormous destructive power. The man thoughtfully says that this dragon is ancient, and his name is just as appropriate. The main character with a serious face understands that this dragon, even after such an attack, is still trying to get up. The dragon moves the front part of its body and growls. The guy lies in front of it. Then the main character gets up and runs to the elevator, realizing that this was to be expected. This is indeed an ancient dragon, and it cannot be killed with one blow. The guy is lifted up. He stands with a serious face and decides to act in some other way. The man orders everyone to move away, holding a rope in his hand. The main character hangs in the air and orders the store to disappear. Then the main character jumps off, and again he orders the store to appear in order to finally finish off this dragon. The guy understands what he needs again and again. The protagonist, with serious intentions, decides to attack this dragon until he kills it completely. He uses the infinite appearance of the store, attacking the dragon again. Then the dragon roars and simply falls face down into the ground. The guy lands down again and tries to catch his breath, right in front of his fallen enemy. The main character thinks about whether he managed to defeat him, but suddenly the dragon's clawed paw appears in front of him and has almost reached him, but the guy manages to react and steps back, looking at the barely alive dragon. He understands that if he were to relax his vigilance even a little and Cadiz would come out, then they would all be in danger. The dragon moves his paw. The protagonist breathes heavily and barely moves, suddenly realizing something. Everything starts to blur in his eyes, and the guy thinks about whether he just ran out of magic, and whether magical power is needed to use the store at all. He curses and realizes that it is possible that it is simply due to lack of physical activity. The guy looks really bad. All the people from above watch the main character in surprise, who the next moment stumbles and begins to fall. He falls down and turns to the guys. Both girls excitedly shout out Kanata's name. The main character mentally apologizes to them and loses consciousness. The main character sees memories of how everything around was destroyed, and a little boy sat next to his mother and tearfully asked her to wake up, but she did not answer him. The main character's face becomes worried, and someone addresses the main character, which surprises him. Kanata sees two girls in front of him, who clearly show that they are very worried about the guy. These girls turn out to be Tamaki and Tina, and he recognizes them. Tina asks the guy what happened to Cadiz. Kanata abruptly tries to get up, but can't do it. Tamaki abruptly asks the guy to calm down and not get up so abruptly. He needs rest. Tina touches the guy on the shoulder with her palm, drawing his attention to herself. She tells the guy that he succeeded. The guy looks at the defeated dragon, who is simply lying in the pit. The girl with tears in her eyes tells him that this is truly amazing. People are shouting that the outer wall, George has defeated the dragon of Cadiz. They suddenly start shouting joyfully, raising their hands. Both girls suddenly hug the guy, happy that they did it and everything worked out for them. The sun was shining brightly. It was on that day that the long-term misfortunes of the outer wall finally came to an end, and the people above continued to rejoice in victory. The protagonist looks up with a smile. He understands that Cadiz, the ancient earth dragon, has been defeated. After some time, namely a few days after the defeat of Cadiz by the main hero, the city was in a festive atmosphere. The city of Kadena celebrated its victory. Colorful festive flags hung along the streets. All the residents are at the celebration. All of them, both inside and outside the walls, came out of their houses to drink and congratulate each other. Unfortunately, however, the protagonist was exhausted and was in bed at the time. He slept in his 24-hour store for several days, and the shirts were added at level 4. The main character remembers that there was another disappointment. He noticed with tears that his level for some reason did not increase. After the victory over Cadiz, it remained 24. He asks if it's because he killed him with the convenience store. He's thought about it a few times, but when he was just running a business, his level went up. The main character introduces his shop, which has arms, wings, legs, and weapons. The guy hopes that soon there will be more opportunities to fight back. The girl happily asks the main character to look at how much they were given in the city. The whole world can now be arranged. The second girl asks the guy to eat more and get better. The main character is thinking that the title in the status column would be cool. Suddenly a girl hits him in the face with bread. He is asked to eat, but the second girl asks him not to do that. A few days later, the main character finally returned to duty. The man with a smile told the guy that it was thanks to him that he earned a lot of money. He sincerely thanks the guy. The man says that the store is still thriving. He will help the guy, takes the box from him. All the people say that he is a hero. Everyone greets him and says that he has finally returned. The guy thanks the man. He sees that they are all in a good mood. He is very grateful to them all for what they have done for him, and he would like to thank them somehow. The man asks the guy in surprise if he is serious about this. The man loudly asks the protagonist to give him all of Cadiz. In that case, the protagonist agrees in shock, asking him to take it if he wants. The man calls the guy the best and hugs him. The man orders the guys to get to work. They will sell everything obtained by the noble bad people at an exorbitant price. The main character understands that this is an impressive business acumen. It was thanks to him that the chief gave them a simply wonderful feast. The main character remembers how delicious it was, and thinks that it was very cool. He liked everything then. Someone addresses the guy, and he turns around thinking about what this time. A fat man approaches him and calls him the hero of the 24-hour Mazain. It is a great honor for him to meet him. A man in glasses stands behind him. The girl is surprised that this is her father, and even Adonis. The man hopes that his ungrateful daughter does not interfere with his trade. The main character says in bewilderment that Tina, on the contrary, always helps him. The man asks if this is true. He tells his daughter that she is lucky to have him. The protagonist is surprised that he is really her father. The man asks what kind of reaction to words of gratitude this is. A man asks a guy how he feels about becoming his daughter's husband. The girl and the main character are surprised by this. Someone behind shouts that he definitely doesn't. The girl turns to her father and asks him what he is saying. He is scaring away customers and it will hurt the business. The girl behind asks the protagonist if he is Tina's father, to which he answers yes. After some time, the girl, with a guilty expression on her face, apologizes for the inconvenience caused by her father, and the guy, with a smile, says that it's okay, because he himself was only a little surprised. The girl asks Tina if she hasn't been home for a long time, so it must be that her father is worried about her. The main character thinks that Tamaki just doesn't know what he really is. The protagonist doubts that he cares about his daughter even a little bit. His previous visit showed a clear desire to take over his store. Tina says that it is unlikely that it is about her. She suddenly announces that there are only 46 children in her family, and she is the 23rd. The protagonist and Tamaki are shocked, so much so that they even spit out drinks from their mouths. Tamaki in horror reports that this is even more than in their class, so that's what they are, nobles. The man says that anyway they can discuss something. The protagonist asks him about what happened. He tells Kanata that there is a possibility that the fame of the convenience store hero defeating Cadiz has spread to the cities around Kadena and the neighboring countries, but if the news reaches Grandale, he thinks that they will try to do something. The protagonist, with a serious face, says that they are quite capable of such a thing. Besides, the Kingdom of Grandale has finally started introducing its heroes the other day. It seems that a squad of 4, chosen by the hero, led by an immortal, managed to conquer the Eastern Cave, which was swarming with goblins. Kanata wonders if things have finally moved forward, meaning the first mock battle is over. The man continues to tell, a lone swordmaster conquered the lizard swamp in the southeast and wiped them all out. The protagonist and Tina are surprised that he did it alone. The man says that the lizards are much more powerful and pose a much greater threat. There are even rumors that the hero swordsman is the most likely candidate for defeating the Dark Lord. Tamaki asks with a smile if they mean the swordsman hero Shiori. That's great, the protagonist recognizes that name. She is a member of a gaming club and is an FPS expert. He got the impression that she is mostly a loner and does not like to play in a group with other people. She is also a loner in this world. The man reports that when will the achievements of the kingdom's valiant heroes reach other countries? But if the news spreads that he defeated the legendary dragon that others refuse to destroy, all attention will be focused on him, and he doesn't need that. For Grandale, this is a problem. Kinata asks him what's funny about that. The main character is silent at first, and then tells Zero that he has a request for him, and he agrees to do whatever he wants. Then it's night. A group of knights are standing on a cliff and looking ahead. A drone is flying right above them. The main character watches them from the drone through a computer and understands that they have arrived much earlier than expected. The protagonist thinks about the fact that he used the information provided, and with the help of Zero, reported to Grandale about the location of the hero from the store, but now he is on the outskirts of the city. The guy is asked if he is leaving the city. Tamaki excitedly asks him why. The guy admits that he really likes it here and he himself would not like to leave, but someone is looking for him, and if the pursuers from Grandale come for him, they will devastate the entire city. The main character does not want to involve the residents in trouble, especially now, when the threat of attack from Cadiz has passed. Everyone listens attentively to the guy. Tamaki sadly says that it's a pity. Because he became so friendly with everyone, the guy also sadly agrees with her. Now that the city gates are open, more food will flow into the outer wall, and the gap between rich and poor will finally narrow. And yet he thinks about giving everyone the goods from the store. They will be useful for the first time. Tina is sure with a smile that the inhabitants of the outer wall will feel relief in this case. The protagonist says that Grandale will not need this city when he leaves here. But if someone takes the city's residents hostage, then this could become a serious problem. But The man asks the guy not to worry about it. He informs that even they will avoid involving civilians at such a critical time if he wants. He can hire mercenaries from the inner walls with the money he gave. Then the city will be protected, the guy thanks him. The people on horses are galloping and the girls are looking back. Kanata is thinking that now, if he can hold off the pursuers and buy time for Tina and Tamaki to get to the hill, then even if they have a numerical advantage, only he can do it. The protagonist watches a group of people in front of the store from a drone and realizes that he sees that Mrs. Crusades and the heroes are not there, there will be no negotiations. They came to deal with him. Suddenly, the protagonist notices that several people in robes are creating magic circles and releasing attacks from them. He is surprised that this is magic. However, contrary to their expectations, the magic projectiles, having reached the store, crash into the barrier and do no damage. The knights are surprised by this. The protagonist understands that he needs to hurry. The fire shutter with a magical barrier is very effective. The knights are confused. They probably only received information about the store before they were built. One of the knights points his sword forward and orders everyone to stop panicking and not stand still. They need to get him out of this strange building. He orders everyone to attack, and a crowd of knights rushes forward straight at the building, trying to damage it. The protagonist notices blows to the door and thinks that since there are so many of them, the standard smokescreen from a fire extinguisher may not be enough to get out of here. He curses at Grandale. Someone grabs the edge of the roof with a hook. Several knights are lifted up to the roof by ropes, and the main character is surprised that there are so many people just for him. One of the knights is about to strike from top to bottom, and does so. The main character notices this and understands that things are really bad. The girls look forward with excitement. Standing on the rock, they think about Kanata. Is everything okay with him? Tamaki is sure that everything will be fine with him. After all, he defeated Kadas himself. The protagonist again notices the knights hitting the building and thinks that this is not good. He holds a fire extinguisher in his hands with a serious face. Suddenly, the system reports that the level of the 24-hour store hero has been increased. The guy happily realizes that he seems to have gained experience from the knights, so in any case it is in his favor. The main character raises his hand with a smile and decides to activate the status check. The status contains information about him. His only skill is a level 5 shop. His stats are Stamina 8, Strength 8, Agility 6, Magic 0, and Luck 8. He has no mastered spells or skills. His title is Legendary Earth Dragon Slayer. At first, the main character beamed and began to rejoice that there were also lunchboxes and a microwave. This is simply amazing. But suddenly, the main character looks at something in bewilderment. Kanata sits at the computer and understands that there are things here that usually can't be in the store. He thinks that this is some kind of mistake. Drones and machine guns with magical barriers are very strange. HE decides to do something and starts clicking and moving the mouse with a serious face. He clicks on the icon of the 5 Gatling machine guns. He thinks that now is not the time to hesitate. He needs to try this. Suddenly, 2 machine guns appear on the roof of the building with a characteristic sound. The knights who are there look at it in bewilderment. These are 2 5-shot automatic Gatling guns for protection against intrusion into the building. The main character looks at this in shock and asks if this is really normal, because Gatling is too powerful a thing for the world of swords and magic, which clearly shouldn't be here. How is this possible? In addition, the impact machine gun means that it is blank. Kanata thinks about whether his conclusion is correct and decides to try it out. When the system asks whether he wants to start the automatic mode, Kanata gives a positive answer by clicking on it with the mouse. Suddenly, the machine guns on the roof come into action, and almost instantly they deal with several knights. The horse of one of the knights is frightened by such a surprise. After the attack, the knights lie on the ground, alive, but without strength. They writhe in pain and moan. The protagonist with a grin understands that, fortunately, it does not have killing power, so it can be safely used. Now he decides to look at something, and is surprised by something. The protagonist notices the icon of the variable function of the magazine rotation on the computer, and presses it, thinking about how he should interpret this. The knights on the roof begin to notice something, movements below them, and think about what this time. Suddenly, the store building begins to spin in a circle, causing the knights on the roof to lose their footing, while those around the store watch this phenomenon in a stupor. 2 knights watch as one of their comrades falls from the roof right in front of them and screams. The main character smiles and says that he thought that nothing could surprise him anymore. But it's just funny. He laughs and thinks about how the magazine can spin it all. Then he smiles and decides to use the machine gun again, which then spins. Machine guns from the roof again shoot all the knights near the store. Some try to run away, and some immediately fall to the ground. The knights ask what kind of building this is. They were not warned about this. They do not know what to do. One of the knights, the commander-in-chief, informs everyone else that this mission was entrusted to them by Lord Drake, the Prime Minister of Grandale, so let them not think that they can return without achieving success. They must go and not be afraid. Kanata thinks about who Drake is. The guy is standing at the computer and thinking that since they are demoralized, now he has a chance to escape from here. He clicks something. Thanks to the store, their escape plan will work. He decides to try something else. Kinata activates the drones with the smoke screen dispersal function. Several drones fly out onto the street right above the store, after which they disperse smoke onto the knights. They begin to choke and cough from such a large amount of smoke. Then the protagonist comes out of the building, sees smoke in front of him, and covers his mouth and nose with his hand, thinking that he needs to take advantage of the opportunity. While the knights are suffocating, the protagonist decides to run away from there and ends up in the forest. His group stands right in front of the guy and rejoices that he came, calling him a hero. The protagonist, exhausted, tells Tamaki that she should have gone ahead. The man puts a robe on the guy. The girl says that she thought about it and realized that he didn't learn horse riding, so he can't handle it himself, and she can use stealth if necessary. The girl is the first to climb onto the horse and asks the guy to climb faster, but he says that he can't, he can barely move, and Zuriel asks them to hurry up. The protagonist and Tamaki then look at the man with a smile, and Kanata sincerely thanks him for his help. Zuriel winks his eye and thanks the guy himself for letting him earn so much money, and yes, if they are alive, they will definitely cross paths again somehow. The man wishes them luck, and the horse starts to gallop. Tamaki and Kanata are scared by these sudden movements. The guy looks back with a smile and shouts gratitude, and also asks to say hello to everyone in the city. The girl looks at the road with fear. The man continues to look after them for some time and wave his hand, his white horse standing next to him. Shortly before the destruction of the legendary earth dragon Cadus in the kingdom of Grandale during the day. In the Great Hall, a girl thanks someone for having come all the way from the west, and she asks with a smile how she can help them. The boy kneeling in front of her informs her that they, the Western Alliance, are under increasing threat from the Demon Lord's army. This is Carlgen Steiner, an envoy from Carteros, one of the Western Alliance countries. The guy says that they can barely stand on their feet, and recently the existence of demons that have intelligence and are able to control magic has been confirmed. The knights look at each other, but someone coughs and they suddenly stand up. The girl promises with a smile that they will provide generous support to their country in terms of soldiers and supplies, and send 10,000 soldiers to the expeditionary force as soon as possible. Carlgen is surprised by this number and admits that the rumors about her grace were true. The girl promises to do her best to fulfill the duties of a great nation, fighting together against the Demon King. But there is a nuance. A guy with a serious face asks a girl if their newly summoned heroes can help them. Someone next to the girl reports that, unfortunately, the heroes from another world are unable to resist the army of the Demon Lord. The fair-haired guy sits and with a smile announces that very soon they will have the opportunity to show their abilities. The girl agrees with this and says that everything is correct. Let him just be patient a little longer. The guy is staring at something. The guy sits and reflects on the fact that in recent years she has lost both parents due to a series of strange illnesses, and despite her youth, inherited the throne, and at the same time her political abilities are highly valued in the West, and this upsets him. The fair-haired guy says that's all. Let him calm his rulers down. The guy, with all due respect, asks him who he is. He apologizes for not introducing himself yet. The guy says that 6 months ago he was summoned from another world. He is glad to meet them. He is Kuramochi Yuto, a hero with the ability of immortality. The guy looks at this in surprise. Carlgen continues to sit on his knee and asks Yuto if he is a brave warrior from another world, so that he can forgive him for his rudeness. Yuto smiles and says that although it can be called a military secret, their squad of chosen heroes has already destroyed the eastern lair of the goblins and the dwelling of the lizards. He remembers these moments. So the day is near when they will be able to fulfill their wish. Carlgen, in a stupor, reports that he does not believe this. The destruction of the lizards is really a feat. In any case, Carlgan is confident that they will be able to provide a good report to the 3 countries. He thanks for the audience. The guy stands up and bows. The guy leaves the room, and the girl asks Yuto if everything is okay. Yuto gets up and says that yes, everything is fine. He thinks that this noisy Western alliance needs at least some kind of report on the heroes. Yuto touches the girl's chin and asks her not to worry so much. If she listens to him, then everything will definitely be fine. The girl touches his hand and shyly agrees and will do everything as he says. Suddenly, someone interrupts them, enters the hall and addresses His Majesty Kuramochi Yuto. An older man in a headdress says that he has something to tell them. The girl is surprised that it is Prime Minister Drake. Yuto calmly asks the man what the matter is. He talks about how they received news that a hero from another world, calling himself the Convenience Store Hero, managed to kill the legendary Earth Dragon in the Western Autonomous Region of Kadena. The girl and Yuto are surprised by this. The girl says that the hero of the convenience store killed the dragon. This simply cannot be. The girl asks excitedly, didn't he say that he was a villain who did evil while being a hero? Why did they treat him so badly? She heard that he suffered incredibly and still regrets it. She turns to Yuto and asks if it's true that he killed the Earth Dragon. Would a villain do that? Yuto asks her to calm down. It's probably not that simple. It could be false information to deceive them. The girl screams at the Prime Minister to immediately send a search party to Kaden because they must. The girl does not have time to finish speaking when suddenly Yuto reaches out to her, orders her to sleep, and she begins to lose consciousness. After that, the girl lies sleeping on her throne. The guy sighs and says that people who lack self-control are a real threat to the country. She is a naive girl, so he thinks that she does not understand how important it is to lie sometimes. She is still young. The Prime Minister asks Yuto if he put her to sleep again, since he is also a bad person. The guy ignores this and asks the man if this information is true. He reports that all the merchants in Kadena were talking about the hero from the shop, so they can be sure of it. Yuto asks with a smile if he only has the shop and doesn't have any combat abilities. How did he do it then? He doesn't know what kind of monster this legendary Earth Dragon is, but he thinks that the deputy headman, who is also one of the chosen ones, was by his side and helped him. He imagines Tamaki in his head. Now apparently, she lives on the very outskirts of the city. She can confirm the truth to them and get rid of her. They can simply assume that some monster killed her and report to the queen that their theory is actually correct. The guy asks the Prime Minister if he can send a strike team right away, and he agrees with his order. He agrees to his order. The system board states that he is Drake, Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Grandale, holds the title of Usurper, killed Crusade, parents with a spell, made the young girl heir to the throne, and will try to appropriate the kingdom's achievements. Yuto smiles as he thinks that he clearly has a reason to be called a usurper, a truly useful pawn. In addition, he managed to brainwash the queen with his skills. Now there will be no problem with control. He has advanced appraisal magic. Drake asks Yuto about what about Assassin's heroine. The guy asks not to worry about it, because he will deal with it himself. Unlike the incompetent hero of the store, it will not be difficult to find her. Someone is hiding behind a column. The man asks for forgiveness in this case. Yuto looks at that column with a serious face and says that it is not good to eavesdrop. He says that she is Shiori here. The girl then comes out from behind the column and stands in front of the guy, a sword behind her. The girl admits that she just came and didn't really hear anything. The guy also comes to meet her. Shiori, with a sly smile, asks the guy if he is afraid that she could hear something unnecessary. The guy scoffs and admits that he doesn't care. He thinks that she should be more accommodating. They are classmates after all. He asks if this is true, but the girl apologizes discontentedly, because she doesn't care. The girl stands straight in front of him and tells him that regarding this, he is not plotting against their main mission. Yuto answers her that, of course, as the headman, he gives priority to the safety of all of them. And also that they defeated the Dark Lord and returned home safely. The guy scoffs. He is told that this is amazing. He is so worried about all of them, but they are okay, and this is quite amazing. The girl smirks and says that it's because they can strike back unlike others. Yuto smiles and says that as a hero serving this country, he can't disobey orders. He would like her to refrain from selfish behavior in the future. She sighs in displeasure. She asks Yuto what level the members of the chosen group are now. The guy tells her that everyone is now at level 3, and everyone has become stronger than before. She understands this. The girl shows all her fingers and says that they are now on level 5, so acting alone will be much more effective. The guy stands in confusion, the girl leaves and says that the legendary Earth Dragon has been killed. Suddenly the girl beamed and happily announced that the legendary Dragon of the Earth sounds like a very interesting quest. She would like to take part in it too. She is interested in what level he is now. It would be a shame if he gets ahead of her. She walks forward cheerfully and wonders if she can meet him somewhere. 2 knights come out from around the corner. The girl understands that he is now heading to Kadena. She pretends to be serious when the knights stand at attention and thank her for the work done. The queen opens her eyes and looks forward. Yuto holds the girl's chin and asks her if she's okay. She asks if she's slept. Suddenly she remembers the hero of the store. She needs to find out what's there. The guy asks her to listen to him carefully. He tells the girl that the hero of the store was an evil hero who served the Dark Lord and did evil in the city. That is why she banished him from the kingdom. The girl looks at him with wide eyes. He asks if he is right. Suddenly, the girl smiles sweetly and agrees with him. It seems that he needs to increase the level of charm magic a little more. It will take time, so he also needs to try, he grins sarcastically, asking the queen if he is thinking correctly. On the table, there are several containers with prepared and appetizing-looking food. The main character, as well as 2 girls, joyfully put both their palms together and wish each other a bon appetit. The girl tells him that the yakiniku lunchbox is the best. The guy never thought he could eat hot lunchboxes in another world. It's a big difference from the time when he only ate 2 onigiri and tea. Tamaki eats and tells her that she wants to go out behind the store. The guy tells the girl that he doesn't think he needs her that much. It has been about 5 days since they left the city of Kadena. They are heading west, to a distant place where Grandale has no influence. They are traveling on horses. Food, clothing, and shelter can be found right in the store, so they do not stop in cities and do not leave any traces of their movement. The main character with a smile reports that this is very convenient. The protagonist reflects on the fact that his shop is at level 5 and now he is armed. His idea of the best shop in his imagination is crossed out. It was difficult to imagine such a turn of events, but what is there? At least he became stronger. In addition, various goods and objects were added. A lot of everything. Tamaki took something in her hands. The second girl looks at something and turns to Kinata. She admits that she doesn't know how to wear the underwear and asks him if he could explain it to her. She looks back in embarrassment. Tamaki suddenly appears behind her and pulls her aside, saying that she will teach her. In addition, for them, as for those who came from another world, even more interesting things appeared. They all looked in surprise at one box. For example, magazines from another world, manga from another world, books, photo collections, also from another world, appeared. In other words, everything that is read in the modern world appeared. Only one type could be ordered per day, and there were also books that appeared randomly. The guy realized with displeasure that it could take years to get all the issues. Tamaki, perplexed, asked the guy if this is really all from their world, because something is wrong. The protagonist reports that the content is, of course, similar, but is it a parallel world? He understands with a serious face that there is no information about the disappearance of their class. Tina asks in surprise about magical technologies and commercial facilities, cinema, game consoles, household appliances, amusement parks. She has never seen these wonderful things. Since Tina is happy, then everything is fine. Tina looks at one of the magazines in surprise and says that this book about women in strange poses is also very interesting. Good recommendations. Tamaki scolds the guy for ordering this. This photo collection from another world was banned from the first day. If they continue on their way, they will end up in the territory of the alliance of the 3 Western kingdoms. The girls ask again about this alliance. Tina smiles as she says that these countries are constantly threatened by the invasion of the Dark Lord's army, so they have pledged to cooperate with each other. This is more of a frontline territory than Grandale to the east. However, to get there, you will have to cross a gorge called the Dark Lord's Gorge. The main character is surprised by this. The protagonist asks if they are talking about some castle. He is not ready for that yet. Tamaki says that no, it is not there. It is just a name. He should study this point. Tina says with a smile that, as Tamaki said, the castle of the current Dark Lord is on his territory, further west from the alliance of 3 countries. The guy asks Tamaki not to burst with pride. The girl is pleased with herself. The Dark Lord's Gorge is said to be the base and burial place of powerful monsters that served the Dark Lord who ruled the entire world in ancient times. Moreover, due to the curse of the Dark Lord, those who once fell to the bottom of the gorge will no longer be able to choose. The main character and Tamaki are frightened by this information. Tina tells him that this also applies to monsters, but there are safe routes that many merchants use, so they can rest easy. The guy sighs with relief and admits that this sounds encouraging. He sits and thoughtfully asks if it turns out that even if they defeat the current Dark Lord, will he appear again? Tamaki says that of course it is possible, but what else can they do? Tina suddenly becomes despondent about this. After this, she confesses to her friends that she knows something, although she is not sure of the truthfulness, and she has no evidence. She tells the two of them that in this world there is a book called Forbidden Knowledge. However, this book is not so easy to find. The protagonist and Tamaki are surprised by this. Tina reports that people say that most of these forbidden books were burned to ashes by the church so that no one could ever read them. Even as a child, she somehow accidentally found this forbidden book in the underground library of Kadena. Out of curiosity, she then picked it up and read what was written in it. The girl was surprised by this then. Tina, with a worried face, reports that the Dark Lord appearing in this world is the creation of heroes summoned from another world. The protagonist, along with Tamaki, are stunned by the news. Tamaki excitedly asks her if this means that they become Dark Lords. The guy says that in order to defeat the Dark Lord, they summon heroes from another world, and they become the lords themselves. It's some kind of endless cycle. The girl, closing her eyes, tells that although it is now impossible to confirm the contents, it was also said that among the heroes summoned from other worlds, those of them who possess certain abilities will eventually become Dark Lords. People in ancient times knew this, and if someone with such abilities appeared when a hero was called, then measures were taken to immediately get rid of him. Tamaki asks with a smile if they are all right, if they will not be touched. The protagonist thinks about such a hero who is capable of becoming a Dark Lord. The only person that comes to mind is Kuramochi. He imagines the image of the guy in his head and thinks about the fact that he will not be the last ruler. After this, the main character asks Tina what was written on these abilities and what they should ultimately be like. The girl reports that, unfortunately, this part was damaged. But judging by the content of the text, these are just special abilities that are clearly different from those of other heroes. It is clear that she herself is worried. The main character says that his store is also special, if you can call it that, but no matter how you look at it, there is no hint of some Dark Lord. He thinks that the means of protection are, of course, dangerous, but this is clearly not what is needed. Tamaki suddenly remembers something and says that there are also hot lunches, delicious sweets, and they save the inhabitants of the outer wall. The protagonist tells the girl with a smile that she is too cheerful and clumsy for an assassin. The girl, in shock, asks him if he could praise her. Tina grabs the girl and happily tells her that Tamaki is a cute and nice hero. She adores her. The protagonist watches this with displeasure. The guy asks Tina for permission to ask another question, and she agrees to it. The protagonist asks the girl whether the heroes from another world, having defeated the Lord, return to their home world. The girl seriously thinks about Kinata's question. The girl is worried and says that what happened next is mysteriously kept silent in the legends. There is a version that some remained in this world until the end of their days, living an ordinary life day after day. The proof of this is that in this world, people with abilities are very rarely born, in whose distant ancestors the blood of heroes flows. She represents a newborn child. The protagonist understands her words and remembers the girl, thinking that if this is so, then was everything that Crusade said a lie? Kanata tells Tina that Queen Grandale said that there is great magic that can return the heroes to their home world. The girl asks again about the queen, and admits that she does not know about it, and asks for forgiveness. However, Grandale is a respectable kingdom that has held hero summoning ceremonies since ancient times, so it is possible that she has acquired some secret magic from another world that they are unaware of. The protagonist says that in any case, as she said, now they must defeat the Dark Lord. Tamaki says that although this is the whole story and is a little scared, suddenly Tina turns to Kinata and Tamaki at the same time. The girl looks at her two friends worriedly and tells them that if they defeat the Dark Lord, will they both return to their original world. They both are surprised by this. The main character suddenly remembers that they wanted to return home, but if so, the girl suddenly grabs her mouth with both hands. Suddenly she lowers her hands and holds herself together, asking for forgiveness from the two of them sitting there. She asks whether this is precisely why they are now moving forward. First of all, they need to move towards the alliance of 3 Western countries. The protagonist and Tamaki look at the girl thoughtfully. Then it becomes time for them to prepare for departure, and Tamaki decides to help Tina, while the protagonist thinks about something. The main character becomes interested in what the previous heroes were thinking. When it was time for them to make a decision, he looks at the sky. Then they eventually continued on their way. After weeks, they finally reached the ravine of the Dark Lord, in front of which there was a signpost. Their whole group is surprised that the bottom of the gorge is not visible at all. It is scary to think that there are demons down there. These are demons that served the Dark Lord in ancient times, and survived they are as huge as Cadiz, or even bigger. The main character thinks that the Dark Lord who controlled them in the past was probably a cool guy, even more than Cadiz. He asks Tina how he was defeated in the first place, and the girl tells him that since there are no records in the old books about how he was defeated, she is also interested in this. The protagonist reports that he heard something about this during classes as part of the hero training program. The guy turns around, and noticing that Tamaki and her horse simply disappeared, asks where she is. He is shocked by her disappearance. Tina tells him that as far as she remembers, Tamaki said that she would go on reconnaissance. The girl then asked her to be careful, and the guy did not pay attention to this, and now asks Tina if she is serious. The protagonist thinks with displeasure that she has been acting on her own for a long time, and he immediately remembers the past, how she constantly left him and their friend, for the cat or for food. The boy tells Tina that he will go and look for her, and she should rest. For now, she understands him, and asks them to be careful. Kinata waves to the girl who stayed with the horse. Then the main character walks forward along the gorge and looks around, suddenly noticing something. He notices the silhouette and understands that here she is. It's good that she didn't go far from them. Suddenly he is in shock from something. The main character is perplexed by the fact that the girl is knocking on an invisible wall, all in tears and screaming. Someone laughs and tells the guy that he is alive. After all, the guy stands and silently watches this. There are two more people standing near the girl who is locked in the cone-shaped crystal. The one on the right smilingly tells Kanata that they haven't seen each other for a long time. He calls him the guy from the store. The main character falls into a stupor when he realizes that these people are Kanamorei and Natori Mitsuki. The girl with glasses is a shield mage. She stands with a serious face. Kanata thinks that this is a simple and quiet girl with glasses, but in fact, she is a stalker who worships Kuramochi. She was watching him from around the corner. They both glare at the boy, who realizes that they are just a pair of bespectacled, submissive servants. That's what they are, and even Mitsuki is in there too. Kanamorei reports that, with the help of a wide coverage of the protective field, it is possible to find the desired person or group of people, and with the help of a protective barrier, it is possible not only to lock him up, but also to suppress his abilities. He asks the protagonist if it's surprising. Mitsuki starts getting seriously angry at the guy. Tamaki is locked up and looks at the two in confusion. The protagonist understands that she's angry. He understands that this is Mitsuki's ability. Kanamorei reports that they have already captured the vice president. Tamaki is worried about this. Kanamorei states that he is the biggest criminal in Grandale. He will make sure that Kanata is brought to justice. He smiles disgustingly and points his finger at the protagonist. The protagonist angrily shouts at him that he was falsely accused. He sarcastically says that he is scared. All criminals say that. The protagonist asks what kind of justice this is if he takes hostages. The guy gets angry at him. Kanamorei asks the protagonist to try not to fall to the bottom under the pressure of the water. If he can dodge and win, then maybe they will let the girl locked up go. The protagonist takes this offer into consideration. Kanamorei then moves to attack the protagonist and uses Dark Water Stream. A huge stream of water is directed at the protagonist. Tina sits and thinks about her partners, remembering all the moments with them. The girl thinks that in the end, if they defeat the Dark Lord, then she will have to say goodbye to both of them. She sits next to her eating horse. Suddenly, the girl hears some sound, most likely made by the flow of water. She begins to worry even more about Kanata and Tamaki. Suddenly, there is some kind of rumble, and both of the main characters' enemies are shocked by it. They notice that the main character's store building appears right in front of them. They are both perplexed. The water crashes into the store and simply spreads out to the sides, without harming the main character in any way. The guy with glasses angrily asks Kanata if he used his shop as a shield. The protagonist apologizes to Kanamorei with a smile and tells him that he is not the same now as he was then. He stands with his hand raised up. Kanamorei stands there and gets angry about this, and Tamaki watches this and starts to rejoice at his success. The guy with glasses says that this irritates him. The protagonist is perplexed. Kanamorei raises his hand in anger and says that his smug face is an eyesore. The guy doesn't understand what he's going to do. However, suddenly Kanamorei stops saying anything and moving. The main character stands, covering himself with his hands. Then, for some time, they all stand in silence, the main character carefully watching something. Suddenly, Kanamorei starts coughing and writhing in pain. He falls to his knees. The girl next to him looks at her partner in confusion. Kinata asks what was going on. The bespectacled guy angrily starts stomping and asks the main character what he just did to him. He couldn't breathe. The main character is confused by this because he didn't do anything. Someone turns to Kanata and Tamaki. The guy turns back. It turns out to be Tina, who looks at the main character with excitement. The guy is surprised by her arrival, and Kanamorei at this time grins disgustingly and also looks at the girl. He asks them if she is also in on it. Water starts to accumulate near the guy's hand, and the main character notices it. Kanata yells at the girl to run away from here, but Kanamorei laughs and says that it is too late. He is going to use the dark water flow again. After this, the main character starts running to help the girl. She looks in surprise at the guy who reaches out to her and shouts her name. The girl starts to fall off the cliff, but the main character rushes after her and grabs the girl in mid-flight. After that, the two of them start falling into the abyss, and the guy looks down with a serious face, after which he suddenly starts screaming. Then the main character begins to remember the past, namely his life in the big city. He remembers the girl in front of him waving at him and wishing him good morning, and a guy standing next to her wishing him the same. The main character takes off his headphones and reciprocates. Tamaki happily looks at the sign and beams as she suggests going there after school. The main character then finds himself in his classroom, where everyone was happily wishing each other good morning. Some were chatting with each other in a group, some were sitting on the phone, some were reading a book, and some were lying down and sleeping. A tall blonde guy enters the classroom and tells everyone that as soon as the teacher arrives, they will start the morning meeting, so please let them take their seats. He is carrying something in his arms. Suddenly, everyone around notices some strange energy in the office and wonders what it is. Suddenly, someone starts screaming. The main character moans in his sleep and barely opens his eyes. He lies and looks up, thinking that he seemed to have seen some kind of dream, a warm dream from his past. The protagonist notices a hole in the ceiling and wonders if the store saved him. He also notices that Tina is lying on it unconscious. The guy asks the girl in surprise if she is okay. The girl wakes up and accidentally hits the main character in the face. The guy says that he is in pain, and the girl looks at him in bewilderment. She turns to Kanata and apologizes to him, saying that it was all because she was there. The guy closes one eye and says that he dragged her into this. The main character suddenly hugs the girl, who is surprised by this act. He tells her that it is good that everything is okay with her. He admits that he is really very happy about this. Suddenly the girl's face becomes calm and she smiles. Then she hugs the guy in return and starts crying with happiness. Then they both stand up, and the girl asks Kanata about where they are. The protagonist looks outside and realizes that it looks like at the very bottom of the Demon Valley, there are silhouettes of some monsters. They walk the rocks together for a while, then they pass by a monster, and the protagonist calls his shop, while Tina looks back worriedly. Then the two of them go down some stairs. The main character climbs first and says that this is his underground shelter. He knew that they added something new, but the interior is almost the same as the Konbini office. The protagonist stands at the computer and thinks that there is some giant thing outside, so it is probably safer here than in the upper office. The girl agrees to this, and the main character decides to first inspect the surroundings. Using a drone, he clicks on the drone icon and flies out of the building a little. Suddenly, they are shocked to see a huge dragon, and the girl asks if it is Cadis. However, Kinata says that no, this creature is much bigger than the one he defeated in Kadena City, and the color is different. Perhaps it is a subspecies. However, there is not just one such dragon there are several of them. The guy with a serious face understands that this means that this is the bottom of the Demon Valley. Suddenly the girl notices something and tells the guy about it, pointing her finger at the screen, where some kind of round creature is moving right towards them. The main character is horrified that this creature drove right through the store and left nothing behind. He is shocked that their store was blown to pieces. The girl also stands in horror. The girl looks around and asks why, in that case, the shelter was not damaged. The main character also pays attention to this. He reports that even when the store collapsed, there were no vibrations or sounds from outside. Perhaps this place exists in a space separate from the store itself. The room they are in is surrounded by pitch darkness. The main character reflects on the fact that this is a strange mechanic, but it's good that it exists at all. Something tells him that this Konbini seems to be pumping up, anticipating their troubles. Kinata decides to try and find out how far they can go up. Gradually, the drone rises to a height of 200 meters, 300, 400, 1,000, 2,000, and finally reaches a height of 4,000 meters. The main character reports that the depth here is very serious. The girl says that she sees light, but suddenly something explodes, and the image from the drone cameras disappears, which surprises them both. The protagonist wonders if this is the same demon curse that TK was talking about. She said that with demon curses, if you once fall to the bottom, you will never get out. The girl reports that she is seeing this for the first time, but it looks like a powerful magical barrier has been installed further on. The main character asks in horror if this means that they will never be able to get out of this valley. The monitor shows a message saying that they have no signal at all. The main character and the girl run forward in shock. The guy screams and tells Tina that she needs to run faster. The girl is scared by this situation. Kanata yells at Tina to use lightning dash, and the girl agrees. Then the guy yells at the store to come. The store appears in front of them, and they run into it. Behind them is a huge dragon. The girl shouts at the guy to hurry up. The main character reaches out with his hand somewhere. The very next moment, the walls of the store are destroyed by the dragon's clawed paw. It pierces absolutely everything. The protagonist falls down the stairs and smiles, as he thinks that it's good that they move to a place that seems better. Tina screams Kinata's name. The guy lies on the floor and thinks that this is a completely impossible game. The dragon looks at the door planted on his claw in bewilderment. Kanata reports that at least they have replenished their supplies well. The protagonist hears some kind of squeak. The system informs the guy that the store level has increased. He is surprised by this. Then the same notification comes several times, and each time the main character is amazed by it. He thinks that usually it is once, but here 4 in a row. Tina looks at the guy in bewilderment. The main character admits that his level suddenly jumped by 4, and a joyful Tina says that this is really great. She asks the guy with interest if there is anything new. The main character raises his hand up and decides to check the status. A table pops up with a bunch of added products and a bunch of added household goods. The main character is surprised that the assortment is now just like in a real store. Tina is also surprised by this. The protagonist is of course very happy about this, but now it is not food that is needed. Of all the solid objects, they only have one shower. He goes into it and imagines the layout of the bunker. The guy asks the girl if she is offering him a choice from the bottom of this abyss, and where is the powerful weapon. Even their store is already on the verge of destruction. Kanata hid under the table and covered his eyes with his hands. He apologizes to Tina and tells her that he might not be able to save her. He is powerless. The girl asks him not to lose his mind. She holds the guy's hand and with a smile tells him that they could really use a shower too. She assures him of this. In fact, she is happy and everything is fine. The guy looks at the girl in surprise and says her name. She happily offers him something to eat, because she brought a lot of tea and sandwiches. The protagonist asks if they have anything to eat in this situation. She says that it is precisely because they are in this situation that she gives him a bunch of different food. Tina, smiling, suggests the guy to think together without panicking about how to get out. After eating, the mind clears up and good ideas come. Even at the bottom of the gorge together, everything is not so bad, so they will raise their spirits and go ahead. The main character is embarrassed by this. The guy tells the girl that she is actually right. It is too early to give up. He thanks her for always supporting her. Tina tells him that she is glad that he is in a good mood again. The girl beamed and admitted that they hadn't been alone together for so long, and the guy asked her what she had just said. As a result, from that day on, they began to live as recluses in an underground shelter. The girl was taking a shower. They had been through many attacks and defenses, and in all that time his level had only gone up 1. He was upset about that.